Okay. I'd like to call to order the City Council meeting of May 7th. If you'd please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And begin.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we will not have the invocation since we will be paying homage to Avalon tonight instead. So please be seated, and we just need to have the roll call.
Councilmember Albers?
Present.
Councilmember Cassidy?
Here.
Councilmember Hernandez?
Here.
Mayor Marshall?
Here.
Sorry, Mayor Pro Tem.
It's okay.
And for the record, Councilman Ole Olson is not with us today. Okay, well, folks, look at this wonderful group we have today. I think Judy Greer will be introducing our performers today.
Yes, this is Judy Greer. I'm with the Friends of the Avalon Library, and it is my pleasure to say thank you to everyone who allowed this to happen. First of all, to the City Council and the city for helping us and for being so supportive, and most of all, to the Friends of the Library and to the Finney Community Fund, which is part of the Long Beach Community Foundation, for their generous grant, which allowed this to happen. They paid for everything. They paid for the teachers, the instruments, everything like that, and everyone can keep their instruments now that they've been here for a while. And we hope to do this again. So if you're interested in learning the ukulele, then you can go to the library, talk to Paul, sign up. If we have enough sign-ups, we will do this again, or we will extend what is here. We want to thank our teachers. Our first teacher was Smilin Noali, then Eddie Hoffman, and Allison Ozinski. Then we want to thank Tim Foley and the U.S. Bank for letting us use the bank building for 8 weeks. It was just a wonderful thing to be granted that opportunity. I personally want to thank Allison Ozinski and Val Schaefer for making sure everything happened. Allison did all of the work that had to be done with the instruments and ordering all the things and arranging for all the music and that kind of thing, and Val kept everything going. Man, she just took roll and took order. So they're the supervisors from the board of the Friends of the Library. I want to thank Paul and Suzanne at the library again for helping us. And if you are interested in any of these events, if you're interested in doing this again, all you have to do is go to the Library Express and see them. We want to continue these programs, and we have raised money constantly to do so. And so this year we will again have many, many children's programs at the library. If you're interested in any of those, if you'd like to donate or give us suggestions or ideas, please see Paul at the library and tell him that. In the meantime, this is our ukulele concert. It is from beginning to end an 8-week session, so it's pretty remarkable that we have this number of students here. This is about half of what would come on a Thursday night to do our ukulele program, so it's kind of good. We started with 30, and then we ended up about 25, and now about half of them are here taking a chance on being on TV.
So this is participatory too. You have the words with you. Feel free to sing along. Maybe run us down in front of them. No. Two different languages.
Not anymore.
That's long gone. 1, 2, 3, 4.
Santa Catalina is waiting for me. Santa Catalina, the island of romance, 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 romance. Water all around it, everywhere. Tropical trees and salty air.
years, I understand. So I'm going to say happy birthday to her, and I'll let you get on with the meeting.
Everybody sing happy birthday to Rosie.
Okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
If you have some more numbers you'd like to sing, I'd be happy to just turn the rest of the meeting over to you. That was fantastic. Dang. No, it's a big deal.
Jacob,
Jacob, great
What's
job.
up, Jacob? What are you looking for? You looking for? What'd you do? Lose a rattle? What'd you lose? Ladybug or what?
He's getting so big and tall. Y'all don't have to go home, you know. You're welcome to stay.
Yeah, money.
I had a couple hours. When I killed kids. Funny how I got homework. Kids all got homework.
Well, heck, our next presentation is by Adelina, Southern California Edison. Let's see if you can top that one, baby.
I don't know.
Oh, and Luke. Okay, Luke.
That's not fair.
Let's see what you can sing. Well, we're still smiling, so
Okay,
that's all
good.
good.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. Denise, thank you for the opportunity to present an update. I'm Luke Shaner with Southern California Edison, project manager supporting Catalina operations. We have a water update, and that notably includes some milestones with respect to grant applications. So,
Great.
once I figure out the clicker.
Just point to the back. We'll take care of it.
Sounds good. So here's the rough outline. We could move to the next slide. First item, Department of Water Resources, DWR Prop 1 desalination grant. Next slide. So as represented by the cells highlighted yellow on this probably tough to interpret table, we received very positive news this past week from DWR, who is a grant administrator of the Prop 1 desalination grant program. In their most recent communication on May 1st, they identified one of the two submitted Catalina applications in their latest round of recommendations. So I want to manage expectations. These recommendations are draft and subject to public comment before being made final, at which point we would then enter into contract negotiations to arrive at a contract. So that's the end goal there. But still a very positive, necessary milestone to achieve that. And so to clarify this slide, some of the text is in red. That's just to highlight that there is pending activity, pending work to be done. But this recommendation is for Plant 2, and it reflects the request for 100% funding, which is in recognition of the City of Avalon's income survey results, which recognize the project area as serving a disadvantaged community. So this is a significant milestone, and I especially want to recognize city staff Jordan Monroe, Audrey McDonald, Bob Greenlaw, and Denise, who have promptly provided reinforcing information and addressed clarifications by DWR with respect to this classification. So again, really positive. They received what we proposed, their clarifications were addressed, and this is the recommendation they have made. This communication does not identify desalination enhancements phase 1 project at this time. That's the more significant project, the future project, and that's captured in that row below. Although DWR has informally and verbally stated that they plan to complete the review of that project and include it on their next communication of draft recommendations. So they tentatively set for July to August timeframe for that. Although it should be noted that tentative deadlines have typically extended due to limited resources and lots of project requests. DWR also has not indicated what award the amount they have settled on for that second project. They have more to review regarding the project area serving a disadvantaged community, but the latest clarifications have been responded to. So this is very reassuring news for the water system and community. We're excited to bring that here today. We want to thank and recognize Assemblymember O'Donnell, his office, and those who have communicated the importance of this program and these projects to his office, including the Avalon community. Additionally, all those who have continued to echo their support for these projects, and notably in the forms of letters of support, including Congressman Alan Lowenthal, Senator Ben Allen, Senator Ricardo Lara, Supervisor Janice Hahn, the City of Avalon, Catalina Island Conservancy, and the Catalina Island Chamber of Commerce. While there is work yet to be done, we are very glad to have this opportunity and share this news.
Great news.
Could move on to the next slide. This is provided to provide a background of timeline. It may be difficult to manage or understand the different communications by DWR and rounds, but just to highlight, we are currently in the continuous application process, round 2, so CAP 2. And CAP 3 is their anticipated communication in July and August. So as soon as information is received, we will be back to share the information. And then this web link here takes you to their communication with regards to CAP 2. Next slide. And if we zoom back and just look at the entire DWR desalination grant program and budget, starting from their first round of recommendations to where we are now in the original budget, just wanted to highlight this because they have temporarily suspended the program to additional applications in recognition of remaining projects to review and available program budget. And this reinforces what they've said previously of they're not letting our submitted application be displaced in the queue, but as soon as they have resources available to review it, they will. And again, the red font is pending additional activity. So we could move on. That's the totality of what I brought in regards to the DWR grant program.
Are there any questions just on that part?
I have one question. The 3.6 million on the, I think, can you go back 2 slides? The 3.6 million that's being recommended for award.
Slide forward.
Does that 3.61 million, does that include, that's the total project funding, so does that include the 500,000 that the city paid and the 500,000 that the county contributed?
This value does not subtract those contributions. It's
It does not. So this is in addition to the contributions that we and the county have already given.
So yes, so total project cost 3.6. If you factor in those contributions, it brings you to 2.6 total project costs.
But we're recommended for funding at an award of 3.6 million.
Correct.
So the 500,000 that each entity already contributed,
Will be refunded?
It's my understanding it's under our agreement with Edison, it's reimbursed.
Yes.
it is, okay, that's kind of what I was getting to, but,
Yeah, our agreement provides that if Edison is successful in achieving grants for that it goes based upon their percentage. And so since their cost was 3.6 and they got 100%, then under the agreement, 100% of our 500,000 comes back to the city.
Okay, so with that being said, I know we can't give the direction at this moment because this is just a presentation, but is there anything that we can do as a community, as individual members of the community, as businesses, to write letters of support for the public comment portion of this to help solidify that it's all positive and that the funding come through? I mean, is there just...
Yeah, I understand what
the
you're
council
saying.
believes
Luke,
that's
is that something
worthwhile.
that you would recommend?
I think it's worth looking into, and I'll take that first action tomorrow. And I know it's scheduled for May 13th or maybe sometime next week. And historical ones that I've attended, it's more to respond to clarifications of those that may not have been included and that may contest the decision.
Okay.
But I don't want to miss out on an opportunity to provide reinforcing information. So
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank
'Cause
you.
Certainly, we'd be in favor of writing a letter
Yes.
if that
Yeah.
would be something that you think would be helpful. Right. And before we let the moment go, I do think we need to recognize all the work that you did, Luke, on this project. You really deserve a lot of credit.
It's amazing what happens when the city and Edison and everybody work together, what we can accomplish.
Thank you. Yes, agreed. Definitely a team effort here. It was just the spirit of the season, but we just seem to make progress on multiple grant initiatives here. So this next one, if we're ready to move on from the DWR program, pertains to USBR. On slide. Yep. So United States Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart Drought Contingency Plan. So this was an award recommended maybe over a year ago now. We can move to the next slide here to show milestone updates. And April 15th, this past month, the USBR finalized this grant agreement that provides a 50% match to develop a Catalina Drought Contingency Plan. And so what we have identified here are the key plan elements: drought monitoring, vulnerability assessment, mitigation actions, response actions, operational and administrative framework, and then a plan development and update process that's proactively developed. The key next steps with regards to this initiative is identification of the task force, and we're working with the USBR to identify who all shall be included on this team, and we'll be sending out notifications accordingly. So we look to leverage city and county and chamber, but had a few questions to ask to make sure we are staying on scope with that task. And then next would be a task force kickoff meeting, and followed by finalization of the work plan prior to implementation. Are there any questions before we move on to the general water update?
I think we're good. Thank
Okay.
you.
And next slide. So we appreciate the efforts and encourage the community to practice smart water habits. We continue to see that in data here, and the figures we have on the screen represent the trend in demand this year compared to last year, and where we are at over a continuous 12-month process for the water system. Water demand in the month of April was 14% higher than March, 10% higher than April 2018 when the system was in stage 1, and the 2019 year-to-date water demand is approximately 9% higher compared to 2018.
Wow, that's
As represented by the graph on the right, the system is entering the peak season. We're just slowly seeing increased usage. And so during this period, smart water habits become even more impactful. So we expect to see this trend increase in trend and increased water demand continue until it peaks in July and August. And this would conclude the general water update. And if there's no questions, I thank you for the opportunity.
We're going to come up with one. So I haven't looked at the board out there. What's the reservoir? Is it dropping a little bit? Or is it still up at 11?
1053.
Oh, 1053? Okay, okay.
Yep.
And, okay. All right, that was my main question. Thank you so much. That was good news. See, we had good news even after the ukulele, so we're on a roll. Let's keep it going.
Next time he can deliver it with a ukulele.
I know, yeah. The water is up and, okay. Anyway, so now we have Captain Hawking from the Sheriff's Department will be coming up.
Good evening, Captain John Hawking. I'd like to introduce, we have 3 new employees at the Sheriff's Department that are working Avalon Sheriff Station, and 2 of them are here with me tonight. The first is, I'll let each of them introduce themselves. Go ahead.
I'm Sergeant Brian Hill. I'm a Southern California native. I've been in law enforcement for 35 years. Started my career with Downey Police Department. I've been with the Sheriff's Department just under 29 years. I've worked various assignments, Lenox Station, where I was Deputy of the Year, Compton, Century, worked various specialized units I've been proud of. The aviation unit was one of them, and I just recently transferred from our weapons training unit. I'm very happy for this opportunity, very happy to be here. I've been working here in an overtime capacity for almost a year on weekends.
Wow.
Fell in love with the location. It's a great city. Like I said, I can't reiterate how much I like being here. So thank you very much all for the opportunity.
Thank you. And your work shift is what days to what days?
I am working from Sunday to Wednesday.
Okay, perfect. Good, so we'll see him out there.
And I can tell you with the sergeant, the reason we had a lot of sergeants put in to come over here. And the reason I picked him is because of his people skills. He is I've already had deputies, publics come to me and said, I know him. I always see him standing down on Front Street and directing people. And that's the type of guy that Brian is.
Great.
So, and the second person I'd like to introduce is our new 911 dispatcher. So when you call 911, you will hear this voice.
Hi, my name is, thanks. My name is Sarah Wynn. I'm the new dispatcher. I started maybe 2.5 weeks, 2.5 weeks ago, so fairly new to the island. I'm just beside myself. It's been such an amazing experience here, being hired here. It's such a great opportunity. I came from Lakewood Station over on the mainland, so it's definitely a big change, but I hope to get to know everybody on the island, get to know all the locations, and I'm sorry, I'm nervous.
No, you didn't expect this.
But yeah, I hope to help as much as I can and just represent myself as my partners and my supervisors on a good note, and just have a good rapport with everybody on the phone.
Are you going to be living on the island full time, or will you be going back and forth?
Yes, ma'am. I'm living on the island full time, nearby to the station. So,
so if you get bored, Judy Greer is in there, and she's one of these that grabs people in Val and says, "What do you want to do? We can keep you as busy as you want to be." Yeah.
Sounds good, ma'am. Yeah, no, it's definitely never boring. I enjoy my time here. I couldn't ask for a better station, better place to live, or a better station to work for. Yeah.
Your family's going to want to come visit too, right?
Pretty often.
Yeah.
Look, yes, ma'am.
Welcome aboard,
Thank
Sarah.
you.
And I can tell you she might be shy, but I'm already getting compliments on the radio when she says, 911, what's your emergency?
Yeah.
They're all, her voice sounds so nice. But that's everything that I have for tonight.
Thank
if anybody
you very
has any
much.
questions for me.
Questions? No, we're good. Thank
Great.
you so much,
Thank you so
Captain. Okay. Announcements and written communications?
We have no written communications, but my announcement would be item number 9 in general. My goodness, I'll start over. Item number 9 under general business, which is awarding the construction contract for the Cabrillo Mole revitalization project, is being removed from the agenda this evening. And I just wanted to acknowledge 2 staff members for the disadvantaged community work that they've been doing prior to the grant application for Southern California Edison, and that would be Audra McDonald and Jordan Monroe have spent countless hours getting us at that
Yeah.
state, so. they
Excellent.
should be
Thank them.
applauded.
Good,
Yes,
good, good.
thank you.
Okay. Department head reports.
Good evening, all. Bob Greenlaw, Director of Public Works. Got quite a few items here, but I'll go through them quickly. So the five-way project's on deck next meeting for review of 60% plans. This is an important review as we need input to whether we are on the right track with the design concepts. Once we finish that review and we have the community and your approval, then we would proceed to the 90% set of plans. So a lot of details still left to do on it, but we need to make sure that we're on the right track geometrically, that the community likes what they see, so that we're not wasting time when we do put those additional details on. Right. So that's what's in the next steps. Casino Way restrooms, the tile's underway, on schedule to open the restrooms by Memorial Day. They're looking great and much needed improvements there. The fuel float contract has been executed with Wayne Perry to complete the fuel components installation, and contract will be completed in two phases. First phase will complete the work on the float in the city maintenance yard, and then the float will be moved to its anchorage in the harbor, and then the second phase will be done there to put the ramp down, and then also the attachment to the main fuel wharf. Then work on the Wrigley stage will be complete this week. Congrats to the Public Works staff. It was a big team effort to get this done quickly. Really a nice improvement with the tile there and the painting of the steps. The serpentine walls will be painted by next week where the painting is needed, where we had at least two walls that we went all the way down to the base on it. The Via Casino Arch, we had that up for last meeting, and considering the input from council last meeting at the cost, we're altering the scope of the project where the city staff becomes more involved, and the arch will be closed to ped traffic for 2 weeks. That's going to be in the fall. So what we're going to do this next week is, well, bounce this week and next week, is we're going to do a light cleaning on it, and then we're going to put a quick coat of paint to cover up some of the spots that are flaking from last year, and especially on that waterside approach there. So you'll see a nice clean set of paint, and all the tile will be clean. So we hope to save some significant dollars on that. 206 East Whitley plans are complete. The final plans will be submitted for approval next council meeting, so that we can start that construction, whatever your input is, but likely in the fall is what I heard, okay? But we will get it bid right away, so they're ramped up. Next week, Public Works crews will clean and replace the fencing at the K-rail on St. Catherine's Way. So where you see that all the rock fall is going over the K-rail, we're going to do the first cleaning. We're going to pop some of the fence panels, and then we're going to get it cleaned to at least a little below the K-rail, and then put the fence panels on. We'll do a more major cleaning as we get to fall. That's what you see in that storm damage cost there, where we have to bring out more trucks and larger equipment, but we want to safety it up for the season here. The ADA ramp project will move to Sumner Beacon intersection next week, and Public Works is nearing 100% with its weed abatement efforts on the city facility now. We were supposed to be finished by June 1st, and we're well ahead of that. And the beach sand for South and North beaches is planned to be placed the week of May 20th, depending on getting here on the barge, and we anticipate it, though, it happening. So any questions?
Chairlift,
Yeah.
Beacon Hill.
Okay. Sorry I didn't put that on
I
here.
know.
It is in transit right now. It's supposed to be on the island the 17th, and the contractor's ready to move in at any moment after
Yes.
that gets here. Okay, so that should be delivered.
And just to mention a little concern, we had a little rain right when they finished the two ramps on Catalina, and the one that's up
Yes.
Canyon looked like it was underwater.
Yes, we're going to adjust that. I've already talked with Jordahl Construction.
Yeah, it looked like
and
the concrete had settled more than they expected it to. So
yes,
hopefully
so
we can fix it.
we'll make sure that it's good.
Okay, great.
I'm the quality control inspector on that, so I'll make sure it's good. Okay.
Bob, also on the K-rail going out to Pebble Beach, how much of that is ours? Do we clean up?
So all the way from the mole, all the way to the other gate. So
Okay.
really the gate
So
to gate.
clean-
And we wanted to make sure that we've got St. Catherine's Way first,
Right.
and then we're going to clean up all the way to Abalone here before Memorial Day, but there may be a little bit of work on Pebble Beach Road that we can do under traffic control, so that even if we have visitors on the island, we can have a few days there where we replace those fence panels. We just wanted to get out of the middle of town before Memorial Day. And so that's what you see all our efforts doing. And then you also will see the curbs being kind of renewed with the painting and also the roadway markings at the same time.
Okay.
So lots of work.
And then one other question, I just refreshed my memory on the crosswalks by.
Crosswalks will be
Right,
done
right,
right
wrong.
after we finish the Sumner ramps.
Okay.
Okay,
Oh, okay, got
and
it.
that's all, and the
That's
reason
all.
we didn't put the median in, we were ready to put
Right,
it in,
right.
was that we're actually will have concrete trucks as we pour it that 2 weeks. For a short time, they'll
Right.
be in the road. I didn't want to have an object in the middle of the road if we've got to do traffic control there. And then also I want to make sure that the crosswalks line up with the final placement, because there's standards that those, you have to have a 4-foot space in the crosswalks once they come out of the ramp. So I need to know exactly where the ramps will be in their final layout, okay?
Okay,
Great,
good
thank
enough.
you. Very thorough and lots going on.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Just a few items. I'd like to address the mole RFP real quickly. You all received a memo that I put together, and I think that Denise pushed out regarding the extension of the due date for the mole. That was due to some FTA language requirements. I do want to assure you that I am in regular weekly, sometimes daily contact with Metro and our project manager, and we are in good standing with them, and as long as we stay on track for both the underneath and the top, we are okay. So for any concerns out there on that project, I just want to let you know that we're in close contact with Metro regularly.
Okay.
Does that mean, Audra, that they've moved to the August 11th completion date?
Yeah, they're okay with that.
We have something in writing that says the date's not August 11th anymore to finish the project?
So I talked to Nathan Maddox just right before this meeting, and I said, hey, we're going to need some more time. And he said he didn't feel that would be and we will get it in writing.
Okay.
But, so that was the assurance from him.
Okay, no, that's great.
And I actually have an email from Nathan as well, and as long as we are billing and making progress, we're okay. So that's kind of the caveat. We got to go, but we're good. So the August 11th date is, as much as I would love it to be done by August 11th, the reality is we all know it won't be. FTA just wants to make sure that we're invoicing and that's all being conveyed through the quarterly reports that I am sharing with Metro. And so I just wanted to assure you guys that we are in communication with them, that there's not any surprises, and they're fully aware of what's going on, and there's open communication. So, second thing, I would like to report out briefly that I attended the CalAC conference the week of April 22nd. Some of the highlights, breakout sessions included Innovative Clean Transit Update, which had members of Southern California Edison and PG, because this is a statewide conference. And it's nice to see that they're coming to the table and starting to be part of the solution instead of part of the problem regarding ZEBs, which is zero emission buses. It's going to be a mandate that's coming down fairly soon. The Green and Going Green was another one that was focused on funding opportunities, including the VW funding. I made some connections with an agency called CalStart. They may be able to, they have some really great ideas about changing out our gas-powered golf carts for electric vehicles. There's a lot of really exciting stuff happening out there, so I thought that was really great. Strategies for growing ridership is always one I always go to because I always want to grow our ridership. The one that I thought, well, they should have really had me on the panel was if I could turn back time, a small agency's electric bus procurement panel. And I do want to tell you that this was an incredibly interesting breakout session. And there was 5 agencies, and each agency had done it a different way. Some of them had done it exactly like we did, where we just bought the bus and we tried to figure it out. Other agencies did it different. The takeaway from all of it, and in one agency actually bought a couple of Proterra electric buses and a couple of BYD buses, and their frustration was that BYD's charging stations are different than Proterra's charging stations. And these are all expensive infrastructure components that you have to charge your buses. So something that came out of this conference was the need to press the manufacturers for universal charging and better customer service and support afterwards. Another interesting thing that I found out was that the FTA realizes that with zero-emission buses, a mechanic is not the same. They're not turning wrenches on these buses. It's a whole different technology, and the FTA has awarded a facility out in the Palm Springs area, training facility specifically for zero-emission buses. So there's a lot of exciting stuff as we're all kind of hiccuping through this, because every agency is, not just Avalon. As we move forward in it, we're finding that, we all kind of have to come together. So that was a good one. And then another one I thought that was really interesting was called The Transit Dilemma, the community or the individual, and how you bridge the gap between meeting the needs of your individual rider and your community as a whole. So those are just some of the more interesting topics that I thought I would share with you. And then the last thing on my list tonight is that on June 7th, we will be going to the summer schedule for the bus service. What this means is that the hours are extended, and we will have 2 buses in service. So the route right now takes about 40 minutes. That'll be cut in half to 20 minutes. Then we are now leasing those buses from TC, and they will be sending over the second bus, and it's a low floor. It'll be wrapped like our other bus, so it'll look a lot prettier and more fun to ride. So we'll have one completely wrapped vehicle. The dial-a-ride hours will extend also. So on Friday and Saturday nights, the dial-a-ride hours will go till 7:30 p.m. to help with the 5:45 boat times. And I just wanted to also remind everyone, the map, because the map has been a question. So the whole universal map thing kind of died. It was a great idea, but nobody really wanted to jump on board with me, but I tried.
Yes. Okay.
But so that's
you don't know until you try.
You don't know till you try. But what we do have now at the City of Avalon is this fantastic new employee, Colin Eubank, who is a whiz with graphics. And so he's been this is a draft, but he's been working on taking the map and making it a lot more user-friendly, taking off all the stuff that isn't necessary and just really clearly identifying the bus route, putting the schedule on there. And I also, so this will be going out, it's small.
Okay.
It's small. But it'll be going out with the new June 7th bus schedule when all the bus signs get changed. And I also want to remind everybody that we do have the transit app. You can't see it right now. Maybe at another meeting I'll come back and we'll do it bigger. But it has real-time information on when the next bus is going to arrive. It shows the bus on the route. All the buses have little GPS transponders on it. So you can use the transit app to trip plan, to know how long it's going to be before the bus comes to your next stop. And also remember that token transit is cashless transit fare.
And so how are people going to know when they come over about the transit app?
Well, it's on all the information, and I actually had a meeting today with Brett and George to talk about the rollout of the summer schedule, and they were talking about taking this map once we refine it and maybe making a trifold that we can just make here at City Hall by ourselves that has more information on it. They've asked about being able to pass these things out at the mall. I said I'd have to talk to the city manager. So she's shaking her head now. So we're hoping that during the next chamber brochure time that the city will have a comprehensive map and everything, and we can get all of that into their information.
Is there a way at some point, once that's really tricked out, is to put it at the boat terminals on the other side?
If they'll let us, I don't see why we couldn't. So, and I'm also going to be working on revamping the website because it needs a little love as well. Okay. So,
has the wrap already been ordered, or
it's already on?
TC's. Because, I mean, the most obvious would be to have a huge phone with the app name on the side of the bus that says download this app.
Right, and we could probably do something on the windows. I mean, there's still
Yeah, because
opportunity.
what we have now is, I
No,
mean,
it is
it's
small.
too small.
It is too small. I agree. So I will talk to him about that because the design, but they haven't actually started wrapping it yet. So let me, with those recommendations, go back and see if we can make those pieces a little bit larger. Because I think you are right. Letting people know, and then as hopefully someday we'll get permanent bus stop signs that look really nice and like bus shelters and
Yeah.
one can dream, right? Any other questions?
Well, just to remind the audience, because I know we have been speaking about the dial-a-ride tickets not expiring. And I was talking to Denise the other day, and she says they don't expire, they're automatically extended. If that is true.
Not automatically, you can request it and then Audra.
So wait,
Okay,
first of all,
explain.
we're apples and
Whichever one.
oranges.
Whichever
So
one.
there's the taxi voucher tickets, which are the book of tickets you come and you buy at City Hall. Those are for anybody that has a commuter subsidy card. If those are expired, anybody that calls me and says, my book's expired, I email, because they're all numbered, I email the taxi company and I say, I'm extending this book another year, and I extend it, and there you have it.
But why does that even have to happen at all? It makes no sense to me that they have to be called. Here's an expired ticket, they just take the expired ticket. What's the big deal?
Because we have a contract with County Transportation Services. If that contract were to not be renewed, then I don't know. It's just how their contract is written.
Okay.
But you're welcome to change that.
No, and maybe in the future, but I think how many years are the contracts with them?
They're 1
Just
year at a
1 year.
time. Their contract will be coming back.
First meeting in June, they'll be before us.
Yeah, okay. Good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That was very thorough.
Hi, Council.
Hello, JJ.
Hope all is well. As we stated, we're going forward with the summertime projects. We have the infloat will be put in the water on Monday, and they'll be installed on Wednesday. And we're getting ready with all of our dinghy docks, and we should have most of our stuff in for Memorial Day weekend, which is a good thing. We've been working a lot on long-term projects. I've been working with Michael Thomas regarding the express boat and tying up and putting their engines in neutral, and that's going to take some engineering issues. So we've got budget numbers for that, which will be in the budget. So we'll be talking to you down the road about that. And we're also getting quotes for the floats 2 and 3. We're planning on pulling those out of the water in December. And getting them rehabbed and getting them backed in, hopefully by the first of the year. But December 1st seems to be the best thing for Catalina Flyer and Express after Jazz Tracks, I guess, and everything else. So the good news is that we just got word that we got the grant finally for the pump out dock. So we're in the process, and I can't thank Audra enough and Ron Aaron and Oren Karstafen, my assistant harbor master, on that project. It took a while to get here, so I don't really see that pump out dock in before summer because we just got okayed on the grant, but we're moving forward on it. So I've been working with Charlie Camby on the hoist on the pier. Got to figure out a way to where we don't put anything in the ground, because once we put a piling in the ground, we got to go through coastal, and that's going to take forever. So I'm hoping we're going to have that something up and running before summer. But again, it's just one of those things we got to figure out how to do it. So
when you say up and running, what does
usable,
that mean?
up and to be able to usable. Again, I'm not promising it's going to happen. It's just it's one of those things that we got to engineer and design some ways of doing it without putting a pole in the ground.
Okay.
And if we can attach it to an existing piling, then we're money ahead. And again, like I say, I've been talking with Charlie Camby about it, and he's come up with some great ideas and stuff. So
Great.
anyway, moving along. So any questions?
Good.
All right.
We're
Thank you
good.
very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, City staff. Just very quickly, the only thing I have to report is you may have already seen and heard around town this week, our partners with LA County Fire Department are in town with a hand crew and a dozer crew. They're doing work up on the fire breaks, and they'll continue to do that all week, some of the motorways, and doing weed abatement at various places around town. On Thursday, they'll be doing an aerial survey with a helicopter, so you may hear them flying around for in the morning hours, doing some of that and doing some pre-planning.
Great.
Unless you have questions for me, that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Matt Baker, speaking on behalf of the Finance Department. Just wanted to give you an update on the audit. We sent the last PBCs to the auditors last week, so we're on track and are expecting audited financials before the end of this fiscal year. Other than that, as a department, we're pretty much all hands focused on the budget, which we'll be discussing a lot in the next month or so. Unless there's any questions, that's what I got.
And what is amazing is the finance staff and the administrative staff are going through all those boxes. I mean,
That
it's
is,
crazy. All of the paper that's going to be off this island is wonderful.
Yeah, definitely a lot of work on admin and finance is helping where we can, but
Yes.
it'll be good to clear up some room.
No,
for
that's
sure.
great on all those people's parts. Okay.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the council. First, I'd like to again congratulate Councilmember Richard Hernandez for the dedication at the kids, the plaque across the street. So, along with Kat Perkins and Hill, yes, Jeannie Hill, excuse me. And then for Dave Hart for leading that ceremony. So congratulations and thank you for your participation in that. It's going to come after me for that one. And then also another thank you before just a couple announcements to Lourdes and Brianna for the Cinco de Mayo celebration. They came to me last year after last year's. The first one I've made was this year. A lot of work going into it. They spent a lot of time with it, didn't know what they were going to do with it, so we jumped in and got a little involved with it, but I thought they did a great job in putting together the dance, the music, and it was just a fun afternoon, evening, all the way around, so we look to continue to support them for years to come. T-ball, I've got T-ball signups going on through this week. Our T-ball program kicks off on Saturday, so through Friday and even the morning of, so 9 o'clock at JMF for 8 and under T-ball players. It's a skills introduction, baseball introduction, skills introduction program with towards the end of the season they start to get into a little bit of play. We just wrapped up our basketball season. We had about 126 kids this past weekend finish their finals for basketball. We had a couple, I was not there, was doing a couple other things with outriggers and some of the other things we're doing on, but a couple buzzer beaters, back and forth the last minute. So it was really neat to see that the teams were really closely matched. July 4th is, believe it or not, right around the corner. Our theme this year is, and we're trying to play off the the centennial for Wrigley. So the making of the Magic Isle yesterday, today, tomorrow, celebrating 100 years of Wrigley's Catalina. So we're looking for floats that might show kind of some of the things that were done in the past, some of the present things we're doing, and maybe some futuristic things we might see on Catalina. So we're looking forward to seeing entries for that. Another full day, we'll have bands on Wrigley Stage, parade at 1 o'clock, the field dock, we'll have music out there again. So we're looking forward to a full afternoon and evening with fireworks at 9 o'clock. For those that saw the fireworks last year, 4th of July, it's going to be more like the Labor Day show. And as I can remind you, that show is being comped just because of how disappointed we were on how that went off. So it is a free show to the community. So we're looking forward to being a good one. And then lastly, our outrigger program. We're about 50 paddlers strong. We paddled this weekend. Our first race is in San Diego. We're taking 26 athletes to paddle with us, and which is really encouraging. 10 of them are new, so 26 with 10 new up-and-coming paddlers, so we're looking forward to some results with that. So with that, any questions?
I missed all of the festivities for the last 3 weeks while I was on vacation, and it was a busy time for you all. Appreciate that. Who brought the pet cemetery to Springfest? Pet cemetery, petting zoo.
I was going to say, yeah.
Oh, Noodles was there. That was a Freudian slap.
Maybe by the end of it, it looked more like a pet cemetery, but they were all live when we started. It was a live petting zoo, yes.
So who brought that?
That was a fundraiser that
Play
preschool did.
That?
So
Oh my goodness!
Jen
Yes.
Monroe was really involved with that, and Christy here was really involved with that.
That's
but a lot of
sweet.
community effort to make
That
that,
was
happen.
very
So, yeah, it was a
sweet.
nice. And if we would have thought of it, and they would have had us, 2 days later we had the Egg Day, the Easter egg hunt at Descanso Beach. That would have been a nice little fit for that. So if that comes back, we might try and do that if they'll have us up there with that.
Great. That had to have been very well received. Oh my goodness! Some kids have never seen a chicken, let alone a pygmy goat. I mean, oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we've just had such great news all day. So where are we going now? Oh, we're going to the city manager report.
All right. Mayor, you mentioned our records retention. We are shipping off 2 pallets of boxes on Thursday. That's what it's slated for, so we're very happy to get those out of the hallway and keep cleaning out our back rooms. We have extended our classification and compensation study for the RFP. It had expired on May 1st, but we extended it July 1st because we didn't receive any bidders. So we are individually contacting companies to have them put something in. We will still be able to be in line with our deadline with our MOU agreements to get that done. I just want to remind everybody that our new assistant city manager is arriving on the island this Friday, and he will be in his office first thing Monday morning. City staff is going to be invited to meet him here first thing in the morning.
Great.
And we'll see what else we could do to get the community to be introduced to him.
Yeah.
We're very excited to have him.
Okay.
And I think the last thing is I'll tell you on good note that we received $115,650 from Cal Recycle as our first installment for our trash cans.
Great.
So yay.
Good. Okay, city attorney.
I have nothing.
See, we're going in a good vein here. We like this. Okay, council member reports. Ole's not here to give you a bad time, so I guess I have to.
All right, I guess I'll jump in. I'll go. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're still the new girl, but
I
not
know.
really.
Well, yeah, no, this is a year. It's been a year. It's ready to go. Let me see. This morning I attended I'm on the Commission for Local Government Services. We did get some bad news. Phil Ansel, who's in charge of overseeing Measure H, the homeless initiative, the county is budgeting $460 million for its homeless initiative, but unfortunately they did not allocate any money for homeless plans. You know, they had a grant program, but they didn't do it again this year. So that's a little hitch there, but and that is really helpful in terms of trying to get any of the monies that's allocated to cities. So that was a little disappointing. And I just wanted to echo the ceremony that David Hart was mainly responsible for here at the Kids Park was really, really nicely done, and so was Cinco de Mayo. I think the community really enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So, congrats on those.
I'm good.
Councilmember Hernandez is good. Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
I got a couple. Last Wednesday, May 1st, I attended the Gateway Cities Council of Government meeting, reporting the Blue Line Metro over town in Long Beach that many of our residents use as well will be reopening June 1st. We got a presentation with updated photos of some of the landings and inside the trains, and it's really incredible. It's something spectacular. So I've been reporting about that all along. But it's almost completion, and then they'll be moving to the north part of the line next, which doesn't affect us as much. The state of California, SB2, is offering housing planning funds to local governments on a non-competitive formula-based basis in the current fiscal year. Subsequent years will provide implementation funds to local governments, and the funds are made available through the state's Department of Housing and Community Development. I passed the information along to Audra and to the city manager, who are going to look to find out whether or not we could even receive some of that funding, and then where we go from there. The Gateway Cities Council of Government Retreat will be held here again this year in June. Sign-ups are happening for city staff approved through the city manager to participate, but also for all of our elected officials. The formal topics haven't been released yet, but this is a great economic adventure for the city as well, to have elected representatives from other cities to come and see us. So I know I'll be attending, and I'm pretty sure one or two of our...
I was just going to be able to drop by and just say hi, kind of.
And then I didn't actually see if Amanda was here, but I was hoping to get an update on the Vaughn's Cart Recovery Program. So if we could...
She went over town this afternoon because she has a meeting to attend early in the morning.
Okay. So if it's possible that we could just get an update to the city council, and then we can disperse it to interested parties is the best way to do that. Then I haven't brought it up for many months, but now that we've moved on from parking and Vaughn's, I would like to get back to having a transportation discussion. Just because we've moved parking from Catalina Street, it has severely impacted sister streets, and I think that the council needs to start moving forward on parking plan for specifically the flats, and what sort of public relations campaign that we could enter into to help educate the community on public transportation and all of that. But we need to look at parking in all of downtown, not just for the residents that were affected by Vaughn's. And then my last request is, if the city, I believe that the city has done this in the past, and I could be wrong, but if we could look into doing a citywide commercial hazmat drive. Part of the struggle that we have is if you're a commercial business and you need to dispose of something such as, a printer or an old hard drive, it's extremely difficult to do that. So if we could look at something where we might be able to mutually participate as commercial vendors in town as well, would be good. Spring cleaning.
And why doesn't that, I guess it's with our agreement, they wanted to say no businesses?
My guess would be, Mayor, is that the hazardous waste that we ship off is extremely expensive, and it's at the cost of the property tax, the ratepayer.
Oh.
And if we're paying for every commercial entity in town, it would be horrendous. IDR, who takes our stuff off the island for us, there are very hefty bills.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Didn't know how that worked.
It's on the cost of the commercial entity.
Okay.
But
cool.
Yeah, but doing something as a commercial businesses as a whole.
Economies of scale.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy on the mainland. You can drive your, something somewhere, but for here, it's different. And we really don't have that much business waste. We don't have that much business as compared to cities on the mainland. So I want to see what options are out there for our business community. And that's it. I'm done.
Okay, and then I have a question for you, because there was it you and Paula and Bart were going to get together and kind of talk about some parking or transportation or whatever? Is that in any reportable stage in the future, or?
I'm going to punt that one to Paula, who's in the audience. Paula, if you could come up to the podium and
is that something viable that should continue if we're going to start looking at transportation?
So as you know, that was one of the things that you asked the Planning Commission to look at. We have an ad hoc steering committee that we've done a couple of forays into the community to look at recommendations for you. And so I think it's a matter of being able to agree on some and then be able to present them to you. But Commissioner Morris was putting together notes for you, so I'm hoping that we'll have them by the next meeting, which I believe is the 22nd.
Okay.
So that's
Yeah, you don't all have to be in agreement. It's just
No,
to keep
just
us
to-
from knowing options, saving us some time and some
Right.
staff time. It's helpful.
Well, and also, I think what we have been doing is observing different areas of the city and trying to come back with something that perhaps could alleviate some of the congestion, and also different ideas for alternatives to not just parking. But
Okay.
so we'll see.
Yeah, great. Thank you, Paula. And so I have a question. There's also a homeless committee, and now we're in supposedly great weather, and with bad news that you gave, but is that committee still working on maybe so we can be ready for the next,
Census, yeah.
yeah, the next rainy season? Okay, great. Thank you. So I went to the Southern California Association of Governments meeting in Palm Desert last week. The one thing that we voted on, it was to increase our fees our dues by $467. So finance, I'm sure you will be getting a letter. Also, the new executive director of SCAG is Kome Ajizi, and he has worked for SCAG for a lot of years. I'm sorry. Oh, you're back.
Just one quick comment regarding the recycle part of it.
I'm sorry.
On the commercial compared to the public. With our used oil grant that we have for, it was originally set up for the private citizen, the guy that changes his oil, he has a place to get it. Commercials, we're not allowed to put it in there. I petitioned the grant at the state, and they allowed us to collect commercial oil when people change it. So instead of changing your oil, throwing it on the ground,
Right.
the commercial people bring their oil. We take it at the over at the fuel dock and up at the thing. But it was a big deal, and it took a lot of emails back and forth because we're on an island and we don't have the ability to be able to go. So and we got that in writing that they will accept that oil. So there's room there maybe.
And do we pay for the oil to be taken off the island?
We get a grant.
With a grant?
Yeah,
and so-
we get a grant, and the grant, mostly our grants used for transportation with IDR.
So it seems to cover all of that. Even with the commercial, now you're in good
Yeah,
shape.
it wasn't like there was 55-gallon drums of it. It's
Right,
just instead of throwing it or not being quite environmentally protective. So,
Right. No, that
anyway,
makes a
just
lot of
wanted to
sense.
throw that
Well,
out.
and I'm sure, other things get dumped as well. So the other little things, as a voting delegate, we amended the bylaws to include an emergency technologies committee, which will deal with all beneficial areas throughout the region, providing transportation planning, and because technology changes all the time, so they want to have some special people working on that. We got our profile of the city of Avalon. I think I should give this to Audra. I picked it up at the meeting, and thank you, Audra, and all the staff that put into this. They came over and they met with us on more than one occasion. Amanda, too, thank you. So this is our profile. And some of the workshops, again, climate change, green gas emissions, all the things that when we go to these meetings, they all seem to be talking about the same thing pretty much. But it was good, and it was in May, so it wasn't too hot. And then today, there's been some ongoing meetings for the last 2 years with LA County Mental Health and providing alcohol and drug services here, and it's taken that long, but LA County has a pilot project working with the Tarzana Treatment Center, but they also have staff and beds and all of that in Long Beach as well. But we're going to work it out so that they can meet with Judge Merich, because it's really important that if these people have drug and alcohol problems, that they be told that they have to go for treatment, and they'll take treatment over jail. So we're going to be meeting with Judge Merich. Laura Roscoe is going to meet out with the women's forum and the domestic violence thing. I got your chamber schedule today, so they're going to be seeing if they can come probably June to your marketing board of directors meeting. And one of our it's not a big concern, but we also still need a place for some of the counseling. But anyway, it's finally coming to fruition. There'll also be like a telepsychiatry as well along with that, and plus the one-on-one. They will be bringing staff here on a regular basis to meet with clients. So anyway, that's very exciting news, and I know Cindy was involved with it as well. Choices was there also, and so anyway, that was a really good meeting today. That's all I have. So, oral communication. This is an opportunity for members of the community to speak on items that are not on the agenda. You will be limited to 3 minutes, and no action will be taken. Oops, nope.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm sure that you've remember from previous years that the month of May is California Travel and Tourism Month, and the first week of May, just passed, is U.S. Travel's National Travel and Tourism Week. And in past years, I've actually brought you a full presentation. I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm just going to hit a few highlights on some facts and figures that relate to California tourism and compare them to how we're impacted here on the island, mostly in some very positive ways. At the state level, all visitation and economic impact estimates increased for the year 2018. Locally, growth slowed over prior years on a few fronts, but showed an overall growth of 6% in visitor-driven revenues. Total direct travel spending in California was $140.6 billion in 2018. This represents a 5.4% increase over 2017 in current dollars and a 2.9% increase in real inflation-adjusted dollars. With the number of rooms on the island that were out of service this past year from renovations and increased retail vacancies, Catalina did not enjoy that same growth. Californians' direct travel-generated employment was 1.16 million jobs in 2018, a 1.7% increase over 2017. Travel-generated employment has increased an average of 3.5% per year every year since 2010. Again, due to vacancies and renovations, the employment on the island likely did not grow at the same measure, but there were secondary jobs supported from the tourism economy through those providing the renovations and the related services necessary to complete them. Travel-generated state and local tax revenue was $11.8 billion in 2018, an increase of 7.3% over the preceding year. As mentioned, our year-over-year growth was just over 6%, but it's important to remember that some of our fees, like wharfage, for example, have increased individually and not only because of demand or use. Over 70% of the state's tax revenues were paid by visitors, e.g. lodging and sales taxes. The state and local tax revenue was equivalent to $890 per California resident household. You may recall that in 2016, our visitor profile study estimated the equivalent for Catalina Island was an astounding $4,997 per resident household. Our small population and large visitor economy makes those numbers exceptionally high for us. California visitor arrivals on domestic flights were 41.9 million in 2018, an increase of 7.3%. Total arrivals by Sea and Air on Catalina Island were down 3.7%, but we still topped 1 million. We were 1,056,678. Statewide lodging rooms sold increased by 2% for the year. Catalina's hotel room occupancy increased by 2.5% over the prior year, but with significantly fewer rooms available due to those renovations. Am I out of time? Okay.
Yes.
So if you're
I'll give you 30 more seconds.
Just a couple of highlights that specifically relate to the work we're doing on the island. User sessions on our website for the calendar year were 1.142 million. The page views were 7.5 million. We posted 28 blogs. The top locations visited on our website were information on Catalina Express, Catalina Flyer, and Island Express helicopters. The top pages viewed for detailed information were our homepage, things to do, getting here, packages and specials, and where to stay. Our top Facebook post of the year reached 33,342 people, and it was in December. So what a great time to reach that many people when we're most in need. And we generated fewer group business RFPs in 2018. We were down exactly 50% over 2017, but we had more than 60% cut in paying partners in that program. So people were tightening their belts. They couldn't contribute as much to the pot, so we couldn't spend as much and generate as many leads. It's looking promising for more money in the pot this year. So
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions of Jim? Okay. All right.
It's my turn again to ask. It's Allison Osinski, 356 Sumner. Just reminding everybody, it's been over 40 years since the pool committee was formed. Summer's approaching and we still have no swimming pool complex in this town. I'm asking again, has the city council done anything, or has the city done anything at all in the last couple months to either talk to the island company about providing land or to the county about assisting with funding? Has anything happened at all with the pool committee?
Well, as you know, if I can at least answer this, the island company has a plan to build housing on that property, and their plan is to work with us and perhaps give us about 2.5 acres for a pool, community center, and dog park. That is all we know, and I believe the island company is kind of at a standstill on the housing while they work when they work out the water deals with Southern California Edison. So there's really nothing we can do at this point. Okay. And I don't know why you haven't been hearing this. I guess that's my frustration sometimes, Allison. But that's where it is. And if you would like to add anything to that.
Sure.
Very high level, Madam Mayor, council members.
And introduce yourself because you're still kind of new.
Walker with the Island Company, relatively new, 6 months,
I
most
know.
of the day. Yes, Paul DeMeyer and myself, Randy Harrell, have been working on a plan, particularly with Edison and the Bedrock Well plan, as you know. Enhancing any of the employee housing or any businesses is predicated upon having water resources. We're just engaging in a 9-month to 12-month water test. It's costing us millions of dollars to procure this water with the intent of enhancing employee housing here at Las Casitas, Tremont, and Triana. We'll be presenting our plans in due course, and of course with guidance from the City Council. But most importantly, what the mayor had mentioned earlier was that there's a parcel of land that's been carved out of that master plan that does include a recreation center and does include a pool. Now, I'm not going to get any promises or commitments on what that means right now, but the master plan over the next few years accommodates that thinking. I haven't been here for 20 years or 30 years, so the history and the background on this has been pretty forefront in our conversations with the Island Company planners. So we're committed to do as best we can to include the community in that decision making. And I hate to say this, but stand by, and we'll provide as much information as possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
You still have 2 minutes and 23 seconds.
Okay. I knew I still had some time left. Okay, question number 2. Anything about the status of citywide Wi-Fi? Has anything progressed on that at all?
That was something that that has been brought up before. I don't know.
I know I've brought it up before to see if the city would look into what that would be and how that would be funded. It's really an infrastructure issue, and it's really, the only way we're going to get more bandwidth over here is to lay fiber down on the ocean. And it's, pretty expensive, but I don't think it's, I don't know where we are on the priority list with that. It has been requested, but we're simply, I know broadband's doing the best they can to do upgrades as they can. I agree. With the number of businesses I personally run, when the Wi-Fi is down or when the internet is down, every business is down. So it is, I understand it is an impact, but.
And they
My
did.
recollection is that the chamber had done quite a bit of work on that, and I see Jim's ready to jump
Okay,
back in
good.
his chair, so why don't we
Good.
hear what he has to say?
So it's probably a year and a half in my mental timeline right now. We convened a meeting with Catalina Broadband and our board. At that time, they brought a proposal, and my recollection in a round number was around $40,000 contribution they were seeking in order to bring forward Wi-Fi at that point, and it was still not going to be entirely free. It was going to require either a time limit that would be free and then pay after that, and all kinds of coupons for codes and stuff that logistically seemed a little beyond what we thought we could embrace at that point, let alone the $40,000. But what was also the outcome of that was that the community present asked Catalina Broadband to make as a priority the upgrades to the nodes and things like that you've seen coming forward since then, because they felt that the impact on losing internet connectivity on the whole was having a greater impact on us than the lack of the luxury, if you will, of free Wi-Fi. We all want the free Wi-Fi, but that was the outcome of that conversation at that time. Technology does tend to get a little bit cheaper and better and more refined, so maybe if we revisit that, 40,000 might not be 40,000 today. Meanwhile, in going to one of the cruise ship conferences this year, I met the providers who have the contract with Carnival to provide their Wi-Fi service on board, and they were looking into and are supposed to let me know when they're based in Florida, when they're next back in California, because they do have facilities here that they operate, on ways that they might be able to boost the signal rather than minimizing the signal when the ships are in port, so that those who have access to the ship's Wi-Fi would maybe have less impact on us. So that's another possible improvement in that regard.
All right, great.
What he said.
What's that?
What he said.
Exactly.
Still have 30 seconds left. And third question was, whatever happened to the alley resurfacing and renovation project? The alleys are smelly. They are absolutely filled with potholes. They're weed infested. Everyone's dumping stuff. I mean, the alley behind my house right now has at least 6 abandoned TVs, a bed frame, mattresses, you name it, all kinds of junk in the alley. It's becoming a disgrace. They're just deplorable. So is anything going on with that renovation and resurfacing project?
If you can tell me how we can get people to pick up their phones and call for large item pickups, because they just don't. And that is a big frustration. In terms of the asphalt and the alleys, we can have that conversation with Bob.
Okay.
Okay. And no, Denise, that one has not been done. I went down yesterday. Okay. Oh, and I just wanted to mention something else. I'm sorry because I had it here, but I forgot it. One of the other things we asked the planning, well, Amanda's not here, so we'll wait. The planning commission to look at CUPs and transient rentals and historical preservation, and I'm wondering if there's been any progress on either of those fronts.
Yeah, I think we had a large study session at the last planning commission. I think the consensus of the planning commission, I think it was unanimous, but I may be wrong, was to move forward with coming forward to the council with asking about the idea of changing the CUP to a more like a license, so it does not run with the land.
Okay.
And so that would put it would still require all the public hearings and stuff,
Sure.
but it would not run with the land.
And I think
we've opined that that's legal. There's some other cities that do that, so that will be coming to you. The other thing was there was information provided to the planning commission about the number of CUPs, and that's coming back in 2 weeks to more refine the frequency of the use. In other words, we had a list of, I think it was about 400 active CUPs, and when you take out Hamilton and Bahia, it was maybe about 230. I'm just trying to do my best. In other locations, and then the request was to look at those other locations. Is there a way of quantifying how many uses there are? For instance, when you look at a map, you may have, a house may have like 20 CUPs right by it.
Right.
But when you look at the statistics it may be that one house is used every weekend and another house is maybe used once a year. And so it's giving information to the planning commission to know the frequency of use, and then what they would do with that. One of the things they're considering is applying different rules for CUPs or for these transient occupancies in different zones. In other words, should there be different procedures for flats versus up in the hills, et cetera, which again, we've opined you can legally do, but they want information to determine what rules, if any, should apply to the various zones in the city.
Okay, great. Well, I'm
So
glad
that
that's
will
moving
be-
forward.
That will be information coming forward, hopefully at the next planning commission.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, thank you. I understand that the commission meetings are getting as exciting as the council meetings, and we should watch them a little more
Yeah, they are
frequently.
fun.
Yeah, good, good. I'm glad there's interaction going on. Okay, consent calendar.
Oh, wait, I believe that, Rob, were you going to address the request about the credit card usage? How did? I was told that you were going to come here tonight to address that. I apologize if you weren't informed that.
Somebody may be asking me a question about the gas station and the credit card?
Yes, that's it.
Is that, okay.
You had requested some information.
Oh, yes.
Well, I'm on the hotspot, but the Island Company has made a decision to promote a 24-hour access to the gas station through automated credit cards. I know it's caused a little bit of consternation with some community members that enjoy paying with cash, but we've had a solution by offering cash credit card cards for sale at Vaughn's and the tech shop here for access. So that was the purpose for it. We're trying to streamline our operations just like anybody else in lieu of a lot of different dynamics within the business community, but that was the purpose for doing it. We've sent out information to a lot of community members and businesses as to the notice period in which we were going to do this, and we've automated our gas station programming 2 weeks ago today.
So people will go and buy a prepaid credit card for the gas station?
Correct, rather than going up and paying cash.
Right, okay.
And so we only have so much bandwidth for an attendant, Madam Mayor,
Sure.
during the day, so we couldn't have that 24 hours. So I know there's somewhat of an inconvenience, but we're looking at the broader and the goal of trying to provide gas services on a 24-hour basis.
Okay.
So you have somebody there during the
We do.
regular hours during the day,
Yeah,
from
during-
8 to 5 or whatever it may be?
We do. In the event that somebody needs some sort of guidance, we have our whole shop and our fleet manager there and a few technicians that can assist in one way or another. We're not going to let anybody run out of gas, but the program is very specific. It's a credit card only. Some exceptions, we can run and purchase a credit card for somebody. I'm not advocating that we're going to do that for everybody, but we want to get the word out within the community that these cards are available at Vaughn's. You can buy a $20 card, and you can use that as a credit card or a debit card in the machine and requisition your gas with a cost.
Okay.
So late at night, I'm just been kind of curious. Somebody goes out there, 1 o'clock at night, gets gas, something happens to the pump, the hose pulls off the thing. Who's in charge of the immediate response for that?
So we have, as you know, we have
For
security-
safety reasons.
We have security patrols 24 hours a day. Renee is on 24-hour call, and so is John Shambo. So if there's any incident that requires some assistance, we've got somebody who will respond, relatively quickly.
Okay, the question would be, so there will be a number on the pump or something?
Yeah, but gas, I
Go
get what you
ahead.
mean, but when the gas goes, I know when there's a tenant there, there's an automatic gas shut-off that you could hit and stop the pump from going. My question would be then, late at night, something happens.
You
who
mean from
shuts off the
a
pump?
safety perspective?
Yeah.
A gas bill or any of that sort? That's a great question. Why don't I do this? I'll have an answer for you by this time tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Great.
Just curious.
Yeah,
Other questions?
great. Retired firefighter.
I bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, consent calendar.
We have 7 items on the consent calendar this evening. First one is minutes from the April 6th regular city council meeting. Number 2 is warrants for a total disbursement of $1,309,644.49. The third one is adopting a resolution accepting the fiscal year 1819 third quarter treasurer's report. Number 4, I'm asking if we could pull that, Mayor. We have a very short PowerPoint presentation to provide additional information on this very important item. Number 5 is directing city staff to request Southern California Edison and the State of California Department of Water Resources perform an audit of the Santa Catalina Islands Safe Annual Yield, and I've also been asked that I gave you a sample letter in the packet to also add to provide total allocation through the years. Is that correct, Councilmember?
Correct, yeah. We wanted to clarify that.
Number 6 is to authorize expenditures not to exceed $105,000 to procure labor, equipment, materials, and engage the services of outside forces to repair damage caused by the 2019 Valentine Complex, and to amend the fiscal year budget for increasing the storm damage expenditures account by $70,000. Number 7 is to authorize the mayor to sign federal appropriation letters for capital improvement projects to Senator Harris, Senator Feinstein, and Representative Lowenthal.
Which item did you pull, number 4?
4, yeah.
4. If no items are being pulled, I'll make a motion to approve items 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7.
Great.
Second.
No questions? Call for the vote.
We have 4 ayes and 1 absent. Councilmember Olson.
So for item number 4, we have just a brief presentation. I'll try to keep it quick. This is more just to educate the community as well as city employees about some of the benefits they receive and the work it takes to manage those benefits. What we're asking for is for the authority to invest $250,000 in a trust to fund future OPEB benefits. So what OPEB is, that's other post-employment benefits. So if you can jump 2 slides. So currently, city employees that have more than 20 years of experience have medical, dental, and vision post-employment benefits that they receive from the city. Just to clarify something I'd written in the staff report, prior labor agreements had limited benefits beginning after 5 years of service. The current agreements is after 20 years of service. So what is pre-funding? So next slide. So what we're essentially asking you to do is set aside money today to pay for future obligations related to the post-employment benefits that the city's obligated. Currently, what we do as a city is we pay these on a pay-as-you-go basis, which is fairly common for cities. But what we're trying to do is start kind of looking to the future. Just as background, as a pay-as-you-go, we pay about $150,000 a year in OPEB expenses as a city. So next slide. One of the reasons we're looking at this now is the accounting rules have changed. GASB 75, not to bore anyone with accounting bulletins, changed the way cities have to record their long-term liabilities related to post-employment benefits, where we now have to report the entire liability amount. So you will see that beginning on the fiscal year 18 financial statements, what that total OPEB liability across all funds at the city, and I think it comes up in another slide, it's approximately $7 million. And so that is not just for future obligations, but that's current obligations of current retirees as well. So the benefit of setting money aside now is that we can earn higher returns on that to hopefully be able to use that invested funds in the future to pay for those obligations. So next slide. So real quick, why CERPT? CERPT is the California Employers Retirement Benefit Trust. It's managed by CalPERS. There are 550 agencies that currently have a CERPT account, and so that's various cities, counties, et cetera. And they have a pool of, I think this slide's a bit outdated already, over $9 billion in assets that they manage as part of this trust. The next slide. So why CERPT? Since we already have a relationship with CalPERS, it's a lot easier for us. They know the types of reporting we need, and they'll be able to generate those reports for us. CalPERS does manage our retirement and medical benefits already, so we already have that relationship with them. Their returns are comparable to other private trusts, and they actually have lower fees in general. Next slide. So there's 3 strategies we could choose as far as investing. Strategy 1, which is the higher risk, but also the higher estimated returns. So this, just to highlight, is different from our other city investments that are currently in CDs. These aren't insured, FDIC insured investments, so they would be subject to market risks. It's a blend of stocks, bonds, and money market type accounts. So The strategy 3 would probably be more invested in the money markets and bonds and less so in equities and so forth to strategy 1. What we are recommending, and that's the next slide, is to invest in strategy 1. And the reason for this is we are just starting our process to save for these OPEB benefits. We're not intending to pull this money out in the short term to pay for the current pay-as-you-go benefits that we're doing. And so we're not as concerned with short-term market fluctuations. We're really, the analogy would be as you're starting saving in your 401k, you tend to pick a riskier investment, and then over time, as you come closer to pulling out those funds, that's when we'd start shifting strategies to a more conservative strategy. So again, what we are asking for is we recently had a CD mature in April of $250,000. And rather than reinvesting that in another CD, we're looking to invest that in the OPEB trust. Based on our GASB actuarial report, the OPEB liabilities currently are over $7 million. The benefit of putting this money in a trust versus reinvesting in a CD is, in theory, we will earn a higher return on that investment. Again, it's subject to market risk, but in the long term, it will outperform or should outperform a CD. And then just something to keep in mind in future years, it's our intention to come back and look to set aside or request to set aside more money to continue to meet those obligations. The actuaries come out with an amount each year, and in the latest report that we had to do for our audit, it was around $200,000 was their recommended amount. So the benefit of putting the money aside is the city still maintains control of the money. We're not obligated to make annual contributions to the trust. We can contribute any amount we like or nothing at all if, just say, that budget year we decide not to allocate anything. We also do have the ability to pull the money out of the trust, but it is limited to the OPEB benefit amount. So we currently pay out about $150,000 a year. So if we were in a situation where we did want to access those funds, we could withdraw up to the amount of our current pay-go expenses. And then we also have the ability in this trust to choose kind of an investment strategy of how risky we do want to make those investments. So next slide. So just in conclusion, we're asking to adopt the resolution to allow us to open this trust to start planning for those obligations.
So I have a question.
Yep.
So may I put a couple $100,000 into this, and I'll split the interest gain with the city of Avalon? I mean, when the bank is giving us 0.01% and you can maybe get 7%, that's great.
Well, it's not like a bank account where that money is insured. So this
Right,
would
I
be partially in
understand.
stock, so there is risk involved. And some of the reasons why we're able to get a return that high is we are pooling with other cities, so we do get the benefit of being
Yeah.
a part of a larger trust system.
No, again.
On a day when the market was down almost 500 points,
Well,
I don't know that we need to.
It's a good thing we
Too
didn't
excited
put
about
anything in
being
today.
invested.
So.
Okay.
And again, it would be subject to short-term fluctuations in the market, but our intent behind this is to set aside money in the long term. So down the road, when we do have a fully funded or closer to fully funded, we could then withdraw investment earnings from the trust to help offset the cost of future of payments. So this is kind of the first step to that ultimate goal.
No, this is good financial planning. Although it's coming out of reserves, the reserves are just sitting there doing nothing. And to the extent that we can start eating away at this 7.3 million, we really need to do it. So this is a great step. I think this
Is that a motion?
Yes, I'll move approval of item 4.
I'll second.
Okay. No further comments? Call for the vote.
Pam? Pam, could you vote, please?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right. I know what your vote is, but just for the record, it's 4 ayes and 1 absent. Councilmember
Sorry.
Olson.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Item number
Okay, number 8 is a public hearing, and this is to receive public comment on the city's fiscal year 1920 Community Development Block Grant Funds. We have Audra, I think, still in the audience. Yep. If you have any questions on this.
No, should I just open the public hearing, or do you want to give an
I'll
explanation
just give a
first?
quick spiel, and then you could open the public
Okay.
hearing if that's all right with you.
Perfect.
Mayor and Council, Audra McDonald, Administrative Analyst and CDBG person for the City of Avalon. We participate in the Los Angeles County Community Development Community Block Grant Program, and the LACDC will be changing their name in the near future. I'm going to a workshop on Thursday about that, also about the bad news regarding the Supreme Court's decision to uphold the citizenship question and the census, so I'll probably have something to report back on that. I digress. So we are required annually to hold a public hearing. Our 2019-2020 funds are estimated to be about $38,000. The past couple of years, we've used that money for ADA improvements happening right now on Catalina Street and then moving over to Sumner. And the city staff is proposing to program these $38,000 to continue that process. And so I will let you open the public hearing, and if anyone has any questions, I'm here to answer them.
Okay, the public hearing is now open. So basically, are there people out there that say we should continue with the ADA and ramp things, or does somebody have other ideas of how they'd like to see the money spent, basically? Yeah. Well, being there are no comments, I will close the public hearing. Okay, is there council action?
I'll move staff recommendation on item 8.
I'll second it.
Okay, further comments? Call for the vote.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
4 ayes and 1 absent. Councilmember Olson.
Okay.
General business, and we have number 9 that has been removed from the agenda this evening. And number 10 is the discussion on the possible Harbor Advisory Board. Just a quick little history. On February 5th, this item was before the City Council. No formal direction was really provided that evening. Mr. Greg Harris is in the audience this evening, and he did get together with me, and then he provided some additional thoughts, which he presented during oral communication on March 5th, and because it was oral communication, there was not the ability of the council to respond to that. It came back again on April 6th, but we did pull it because Mr. Harris had to be off the island that day, so here it is again.
Okay. Any of you, the council people,
Do
want
you want me to
speak
start,
up?
Pam? You want me to start?
I can. Okay.
If you're ready, go. Otherwise,
well,
I can.
Councilmember McGugan brought this up originally, and I think that you have more fully fleshed out ideas about this than I do. I just wanted to do 2 things. One, I think, is to read again the, I think, a very thoughtful memo that the committee, these members, I'm not sure I want to call it a committee as much as an advisory ad hoc group, something like that. But what they indicated, they were interested in helping the city with and volunteering to do this. The purpose of this Avalon Harbor Committee, the AHC, would be to provide assistance, review, and make suggestions to the city manager, city council, and harbor department on Avalon Harbor matters, including repairs, maintenance, or emergency repairs, long-term projects, capital improvements, harbor use permits, and personnel. And I think that there actually has been some recognition that we already have a system that works for harbor use permits and personnel, and that probably would not be appropriate for this group.
It was removed.
The committee members, it suggested that the committee members have a strong interest in the well-being of the harbor, have marine experience in the disciplines of business, repair, construction, engineering, and operations. Committee members would be approved by the city council, as well as the existing committee members. And then they provided some examples of things that they think that their experience and background and knowledge would be helpful with in terms of providing a third set of eyes or oversight on potential failures, things that look like they're going wrong, current items that are in need of repair, making sure that we're keeping adequate maintenance schedules and records, the longer term projects, capital improvements, and continued maintenance. And the list of people, certainly reflects a lot of experience. Charlie Burschmidt, Charlie Canby, Caleb Linz, J.J. Guyan, Don Wright, Greg Harris.
J.J. Guyan removed his name.
Oh, right. I know Ellen just had major surgery. and Shell Hineker. So my thoughts on this that I discussed with Councilmember McGugan Cassidy was that I have an extreme interest in seeing the, JJ referred to it this evening, but he also referred to it in another meeting where he said he wasn't going to have time to get to it, and I completely understand that. We're into the summer, but the completing the task of finding a way to get the Express to be able to shut down when they're on the dock at Float 1 would have extreme benefits for the city, because we're looking at trying to fund a number of things. For instance, the hospital, trying to find monies to fund reduction of our water rates, our water charges. And that is really one of the only viable financing methods that we have. And it seems to me that it's a marine engineering issue, that we have a group of people who have extensive marine experience, and that if we can find a way to have the Express shut down, we would, number one, enhance safety, because right now, if you're trying to land a boat at any of Jay's moorings when the boat's going, it makes it extremely difficult. We know that, according to the engineers that did all of the reporting, Michael Baker, that the running of those boats contributes significantly to the sedimentation problem that we have. And obviously, there's a pollution aspect to it, and then there's a financial aspect to it. And I would very much like to see us put an emphasis on having that happen, and I think that this group could make that happen and assist in making that happen. So that was my thought, but I know that Councilmember Cassidy has many others.
Absolutely, without a doubt, we're on the same page there. I think we as a city don't have the money to pay to bring in experts because we don't, for whatever reason. We have a group of experts in our community that at the very least can make recommendations that, for example, the council doesn't have the education or the lifelong experience to understand or to make. And I guess my motto has always been, I will learn whatever somebody wants to teach me. And I think it's important that we look to our community members, one on this list who, obviously worked for the city for 40 years. I think there's a lot of experience in education that we can garner from them. I think it's a cost-effective solution for the city to go out and get information. So I'm fully in favor of sort of this with a couple tweaks to it. But additionally, part of the reason that I brought this forward was to sort of change the perception in town. I think there's more that we can do. I want to look at preserving our assets, ensuring good customer service in our harbor, bettering the services that we could offer, safe mobility in the harbor, looking at saturation, coming up with ideas of how would we properly measure saturation, how could we better create mobility in the harbor that's safer for uneducated boaters as well as our educated boaters. And I don't mean that in a derogatory manner. I mean that for the person who comes here to have a really great time, who gets in a boat, who has no prior experience in a boat. I want to provide education to them to be safe, education to our local businesses that operate in the harbor to come together in a different kind of service level than we have before. I think there's a lot more education that we can be doing with our waterside permit holders and also with our boaters coming to town. I feel that we are losing boaters. I feel that visitors. We're losing visitors. When we changed our mooring rates, we saw the detriment to our harbor and our revenue for the harbor. We have remedied that as a council. But I think that there's a lot that a committee could do to help give suggestions and to educate the city council. It's not meant to be tell the harbor department what to do. That's not the intention at all. It's, we have service concerns in the harbor. How do we address those? We have education concerns. How do we address those? And as JJ, you've mentioned several times, you guys are pretty tapped right now with all of the emergencies, the fixes, all this other stuff. Let's put a committee together that's going to take on some of these other projects and give some good recommendations, and one that saves the city a whole lot of money. So with the proposal that Greg had, I obviously want to add some communication pieces. That may not be as interesting to the group of engineers, but it's important. And I think I don't want to create two separate groups. I'd like it to be one group. I think the suggestions should be given directly to the city manager and city council. The second one would be, I believe the city council should be the approval for the committee members, that it shouldn't necessarily be existing members, in order to keep that group sort of on an even level. That I'd rather it be the council that determines who is going to participate in the group, so to speak. And then I also, a couple of the names of persons who have been extremely interested in participating in something. I'd like to include Allison Ozinski and also Russ Armstrong, who I think will contribute to making some suggestions and recommendations. So
just so we know, the only item on tonight is whether you want to move forward with the creation of this, and then at the next meeting we would bring up the creation of it and then membership. So one thing I'd like to get direction on tonight is, if there is some momentum for this, the number of people that
would all be decided by us.
We would look at that. Yeah, I just added those names because we'd already named the list, and I just, for the public record.
However, if we make it a commission, we have to go out there and ask the public who wants to participate. We can't automatically say it's these people, just like the planning commission.
Yeah, there's a procedure when you create something, then you post openings on it.
Yeah.
And there's a whole statutory process where people can apply, and then once all the applications come in, ultimate, and then you would have to decide, is it the council deciding, or right now with the planning commission, it's the mayor makes recommendations, and then the council rejects or accepts them, or you could do that with the whole council.
Okay, and then, just like the planning commission, we have to public notice, we have to have staff here to take minutes, we have to post the agenda, put everything on the web, just like our planning commission and our city council meetings.
Why wouldn't you want to do that?
Well, I guess the problem that I'm having with it, because I know the bunch of experts here, I totally get it. And people contact us all the time, or contact Denise, about things that should be taken care of and their suggestions, and sometimes we take them and sometimes we don't. But what we don't have, the planning commission doesn't question what Amanda does or doesn't do as the planning director. This way, you're kind of saying, oh, let me see your maintenance schedule. Oh, let me see what you're going to do about those nuts and bolts. I mean, I think it's too much of a supervisorial commission, the way it seems to be presented here, and I don't think we need that. When we started this thing in March, we said, okay, I'll get together and come up with your recommendations and bring them forward. I don't know that anything has been brought forward on a preliminary basis to Denise, where she then went to, JJ and said, JJ, what do you think about these things? Are they valid or whatever? I'm not sure. I just don't know about that. It seems like a level of supervision more than a commission to me. So anyway, but go ahead, Greg.
I'm sorry if you're confused, but what you have here is you have a panel that has a lot of experience. They know how to get items that are hard to find, nautical items like, just stuff that is hard to find. Charlie Canby can pull stuff out of a catalog and get it over here in 5 minutes, where a lot of people don't know how to get it. And
But my question is, why do you need a commission to be able to do that if you're concerned with the harbor? Why can't you just say blah, blah, and then say, hey, JJ, we know how to get this cheaper, or we can bring it here, or we can fabricate that? I mean, I don't know why it needs to be a commission.
Well, it's a
versus
committee. The
council.
panel isn't just for, for gathering equipment or anything. It's to field questions and concerns that people have. A lot of people approached me since the short time the subject came up, and they wanted to know how to do a situation. And I told them, I said, well, I can't do anything right now, but I can see your concern. I can see why you're having a problem, and a lot of people wouldn't understand it. You get a guy that has a business, a service out there, providing a service, and he has a hard time getting an answer for his problem. Well, and I can't go into the problem, but if you have a panel, they can kick it around a little bit. They can find out just what it is. He's a priority service out there. And it would be nice to help them out a little bit. And there's other people too. Anybody with a dinghy, with anybody that uses the harbor, fields a lot of questions. And I don't know if the harbor department has the time to field all those questions. I mean, they're busy.
But really, whether you're a commission, I mean, I don't know what difference the task force would be then to make a formal commission. It's just.
I don't know what vehicle you want to take, to field these things. But I was asked whether it would be feasible or would it be beneficial for the harbor department to have a harbor committee, and I believe it has.
The 3 minutes is
Okay,
up.
so
The
Annie,
3 minutes.
let me ask you this, if I understand what you're saying as far as supervisory and whatnot. So why couldn't I create a harbor ad hoc committee and have 2 council members sit on that committee like we do with Edison, like we do with the hospital, and when we want to look at something, we look at it, when we want to talk about it, then when there's something to report, there's something to report. Why could we do it that way?
You could do it that way as long as the official committee does not consist of other people other than 2 council members.
Right.
And then those
And
two
the council does not decide
Right.
who the other members are.
Okay, well, I mean,
Like
that's
if you and
kind
Rich,
of.
you'd say, let's.
But you could have, say for example, there's 17 versus 15 people or 10 people listed. There's 17 people who want to participate. Okay, fine. Come and participate. And that way we still feel like there's movement forward, but it's not, it then doesn't create staff time other than,
Well, yeah, you'd have to have different priorities. You have your maintenance priorities. Then you have the concerns of the citizens and the people that use the harbor. You have to take them into consideration and listen to what they have to say. They might have a hard time presenting it or don't even know who to present it to. And so if you have a panel, you could kick the problem around. You could find the best way to present it and who to present it to, so they would get an answer. It's not a judgment call, and it's not just a yes or no. But at least if you have an ear and you listen to some people, you could listen to their concerns, and then you'll have people, you can run it by them and say, well, which way are we going to go? We're going to go this, make a decision on which is the best way to present the question, so you get an answer.
Right.
It's
It's
not a.
And I get that great, and I get it too, but
Yeah.
I also like trying to give the harbor master a chance too. Take some of these things, these issues that we have, go to the harbor master, see if we can get them worked out, instead of go ahead and set a committee now. Why don't we try that for a little bit and see if we have any progress? If we're not having any progress and nothing's getting accomplished because we're not following back on certain stuff, then I think we make do other actions to go and have your committee and do that. I think you do got great guys on that committee. Don't get me wrong on that.
Yeah.
Well, just the fact that we're talking about this in the committee is proven that you need something. I'm going to let Charlie talk for a while. He's got something to say.
Okay. Excuse the cane. Got a new hip.
Hope it's you got a new hip?
Yeah.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of ways we can envision this harbor committee, but this is the way I envisioned it, is that it was a selected group of people that are interested in the harbor and its well-being. And all of us would have various types of knowledge of the harbor. Some would be business people, some more business-orientated or maintenance orientated or construction or repair orientated, just a whole variety of types, because there are different types of situations that come up. It'd be a specific group the Harbor Department or the City Council could ask their opinion of. It would be a group that was already selected. So if JJ had a question or the Harbor or the City Council had a question, we would already be a body of people that you would come to regarding, say, a new fee, or what do you think about this mold design? What's your input of your group? Or if it had been the fuel dock, there might not be so much controversy about the way it's constructed. Maybe there are groups, people that are interested in the committee that would have had some really good input on that. And I'd say we're like a presidential advisory group on trade, but hopefully we do a lot better job. And then there's different ways you could select it. I liked some of the ideas thrown out. You'd advertise it that there's positions open on the Harbor Committee, and that the City Council would approve those people. I don't know if we have to limit it to a number. You know, of course, we don't want 50 people, but if you might get 1 or 2 interested in the business, others boater orientated, a couple maintenance orientated, so we'd have a well-rounded group. And then after the group is formed, then we would, you could be a new group, so then you could figure out how to use this to your advantage. It could go a lot of ways. It could become very controversial, of people hounding JJ about maintenance, which I don't think we should. Or we could be really beneficial, and we could be a friend, and JJ would come to us, or City Council would come to us frequently and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? What's the opinion of the Harbor Committee? So those are my ideas about how we can make it work. Okay. Thanks.
Well, and you know, it's interesting because there's been a lot of stuff that's come before the City Council that's harbor related, and nobody has come up and asked any questions or said anything about it. They criticized the gas dock. Did anybody ever come to the City Council and go, man, you're really screwing up? You know, so it's that chatter on the street that's not healthy, and now the meetings start at 5, so it's just easier to come and talk to us at 5 o'clock. I mean, how often do they come and say, you know, when we're talking shoreboat service, nobody comes out? I mean, so it's kind of like, I really appreciate the fact that you all are now thinking and whatever, but I would like the ad hoc committee or something like that, instead of going to a full commission with all of
a committee.
The work.
So it sounds like we have consensus, and we just need to bring it back to decide which 2 City Council people would.
Well, let's see if there's anybody that's interested. I personally am not. I mean, you're interested. Yeah, I'm not. That's good.
And
yeah.
I would just say that
we have votes, but
if it turns out it's a council committee of 2 councils with standing jurisdiction, then that is a Brown Act meeting.
Right.
What do you mean standing jurisdiction?
In other words, over the harbor. If it's a standing committee of a legislative body.
What's wrong with
which have a continuing subject matter jurisdiction. So if you create a committee that has continuing subject matter jurisdiction, that's considered under the revised Brown Act, that's considered a legislative body.
And so what?
So you have to do the Brown Act.
And then what differentiates the
from
hospital ad hoc
and the Edison
ad hoc?
Because the hospital was just for the purpose of, well, the hospital, we meet as a board, and the Edison is just...
No, the hospital we meet as a group that I developed.
Group? I don't think that was created by the council.
Yes, it was.
Well, it wasn't created by the council.
No.
The council selected 2 of its members to participate. It was created by a group outside.
No, I created it.
There was no...
I brought it to the council, and I said I wanted these members from these areas of the community to participate in a group and moving forward to talk about what the initiative, if there was going to be another initiative, what that initiative would be, and to also talk about public relations about a new hospital, to you know, what is this thing?
But I remember that was not, that was, I'm going to form a committee, and anyone who voluntarily wants to be on it can be on it. That was not, the council did not vote to establish that committee.
Right, and the same thing with Edison.
Then
So
what
we're
did
not
we
voting to
voted
establish
on?
this
Okay.
committee. They've already formed themselves.
Okay, right.
There's a community group
Okay.
that's
Right.
formed, and what we're just doing is seeking city council decision as to whether we want one or two of our members to participate in that community group, right?
Yes, but but if it's going to be a standing subject matter jurisdiction, if you're actually going to take action, that's going to trigger the Brown Act requirements.
What
I
action
think
would they be
any
taking?
action that would be taken would be brought to the council, which is what would have been done regardless of whatever the group ended up being. So if, hypothetically, if, JJ brought it up earlier, so JJ's been talking to Charlie about the crane. Thank you, by the way. And if this were to be a bigger thing and it got sort of punted and this group discussed it, then the group could put together, here's a recommendation that would have to come to the city council so that the
Right.
council as a whole would determine
Because
what to do with
Because it's
that.
going to involve money or whatever.
It's no different than
Yeah.
if the hospital were to say,
So-
we're going to go out
Right,
for a
so
ballot
they don't really
initiative.
have jurisdiction.
No.
It's just the interest of
They
the
don't
group.
give
What we
and
could
the
do is, in order to comply with the Brown Act, the committee can form itself, and we could designate 2 council members on an advisory, temporary body when they come up with a recommendation on various subjects, that body can hear those concerns.
Those 2 bodies and.
And it's not a body, it's an advisory, it's a
Right,
temporary
right.
advisory committee, an ad hoc committee of 2 people on a temporary basis that just has, when it comes, you know, they will.
No,
they'll
isn't the
report to
city council authorizing us to just participate in this community group?
Or do we have to?
Well, but, I mean, they can authorize you to participate in as long as you're not members of
Right.
that group.
Right.
So we'll do
Right.
that.
Okay.
Or you don't even need a formal action for that.
I still just, I'm sorry, I feel uncomfortable with the legal advice that we're getting right now, and I don't have any other way to delicately put that. Because unless you can help me understand how this is different from the hospital meeting or the Edison meetings, I feel like you're giving different direction now versus those meetings.
The Edison ad hoc committee was formed for the temporary, it was formal action formed for a temporary purpose to deal with the rate case. That was it. It was deal with the rate case, does not have continuing subject matter jurisdiction over everything Edison. It was for a single purpose, advisory on the rate case. And so that was one action. The thing with the hospital was no action was taken by the council on the formation of that group. There was no formal action creating it. It was.
I think we need to go back and revisit that meeting,
Okay, but the thing is, I don't want to have to bring this back again if we don't have to bring this back again.
Right.
So whatever we have to legally do so that these 2 people can meet with those 2 people on a time and place that they decide as this little group of people, and then they attend. And then you all attend. So, and then you can talk to them about meeting time or whatever, whenever you want to.
And so, just for the record, I guess I no longer will set the hospital meetings and no longer send the agendas and no longer take the minutes and no longer pass all that out, so.
What was that all about?
I mean, you're saying, have him tell us what we legally need to do. I'm saying do the same thing that we do for the hospital meeting. It doesn't have to be, I coordinate all of those meetings. So I call the meeting date, I call the availability, I call the participants to come to that meeting we haven't had one for 2 months, but every month. So why would this have to be done? Hypothetically, why would Greg have to do all the work to develop this? Why couldn't we just say, we meet every first Tuesday of the month at noon?
I mean, that's fine, but.
Because again, when you take action, what the Brown Act says is when a meeting schedule fixed by action of the legislative body is a legislative body. If the council's gonna act to set a schedule, it triggers the legislative body.
Do you agree with what he's saying, Pam?
I understand what he's saying.
Okay, so let them just
Yeah.
pick a date and time, and they'll run it by you to see if it's fine, and then that'll be your standing date.
That's the action, and the whole key is there is a formal action of a legislative body.
Okay. Paula Patterson, did you have something to say?
I'm kind of a little astounded. In the fact that I know Captain Hawking has been soliciting volunteers to help him in his job and can't get a soul.
We had a meeting today, you missed it.
What nobody tells me.
We've worked that out today.
Okay, so, I mean, I need a, like, anyway, but the other thing is, I think to myself, like, since I've been coming to these meetings, I remember so distinctly the report that was done by Michael Baker that cost us $100,000. And I was just thinking, right, well, that's the number that. And I was thinking, if those people that came over here green knew nothing about our island, I mean a little bit, but really this was a big deal to if they'd had just sat down and had a conversation with the people that are offering their expertise right now, maybe it would have come, who have all told me the same conclusion about many that are still the same. I just think it's sad when we've got people that are willing to do it in their own time. Just offer any kind of resource for our harbor. I think it's astounding that we don't figure out a way to make it happen.
And we're doing that right now.
Well, that's good, because I keep hearing stuff to make it a roadblock and making it more complicated. I can't figure out why that is. But anyway, I think you're working on it. But that's all. I mean, what an extraordinary brain trust right there.
They're great people, brilliant people. Yeah, I agree. Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
Can I just express some concerns that I have?
Yes.
Whatever the direction the city council provides to city staff is absolutely what we will do. We've mentioned Michael Thomas, or Michael Baker, and the plans that they've done for the sedimentation study and the mole phase 1 engineering plans. I totally respect all the gentlemen that are on this list. Are you suggesting that they're going to come and review the plans and have comments to city staff, taking our time when we've already paid for that amount of money? They are experts themselves that provide the plans. And who said that they didn't go out and ask people questions? I am concerned about the group taking city staff time on other projects that we could be working on. I guess I just want to make sure we have clear guidelines.
Because
I'm just going to respond to that because
guidelines.
this is growing out of my frustration. So we hired Michael Baker. We spent much more than $100,000 to get plans that provided for proposals to deal with our sedimentation issue that ranged from $21 million to $4 million. We don't have any of that money. And meanwhile, in their own report, they identified that the running of the Express, the continual running of the Express, is a major contributor to the sedimentation problem.
That is correct.
Why can't we get that solved? I've been on the city council for a year. The last time it was discussed, we were going to go and look at the Space Station X. They had some sort of tie-up, and maybe that was going to help. It didn't get solved. Then I hear that the Express, when we link together floats 1, 2, and 3, were able to shut down except when there was a south swell. Well, that didn't last very long because every time I'm on the boat, they run. And meanwhile, there is a ready solution to your financial issues with the budget if we could access some aspect, additional wharfage fees, that could be result from savings of shutting those boats down. So I'm just talking about one particular issue that I am completely frustrated with, hiring expensive consultants that don't offer results, don't offer solutions, and I'm cognizant of the fact that staff does not have the time. JJ said at the last meeting, I'm not going to be able to get to this until after the season. So I think it's great that you're saying that you're talking to somebody on the Express, but I know that it's gonna give way. It's gonna give way to the demands of the summer. So my idea was we have people who actually know vessel engineering, who might be able to do some research, might be able to come up with some ideas that we could actually get something done.
Didn't they already provide 3 or 4 options for us very specifically on that, Pam?
And they all cost millions of dollars.
Well, so that committee could have
And it
done.
didn't even include, let's go back to the way it used to be. Shut down the boats, put back the groin. Millions of dollars for their plans. So yeah, I'm frustrated.
Right.
Because that's just not viable. We're not voting on those plans. Are you presenting them to us with the way that we're going to pay for it? No. It's just, it's a piece of paper with some engineer's great ideas. But without the money, it doesn't solve the problem. We have a problem right now that's just getting worse.
So again, Michael Baker and those folks have been here how many times on this? And that doctor so-and-so with the Hawaiian shirt?
A couple times.
There was nobody from the city here to look, nobody seemed to care about it when we were doing the actual study or saying, oh, well, why don't you look at that? You know, it's kind of like so that's a frustration of mine. If they're that concerned, why weren't they out here then coming to say, you don't have to spend $100,000 on this. Hey, you've got the brain thrust here or the brain trust. The thing is too, though, if we're applying for grants, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you can say we have this task force of all these brilliant people, which they are, and this is what they're doing. I mean, I don't know, I don't know if funding agencies will look at a task force or a commission and say, okay, fine. I mean, I don't think government works that way, sadly, but I could be wrong. But anyway, JJ has something he'd like to say.
Thank you. I understand your frustration, Pam. I truly do. But no matter what happens with the express boat and we turn the engines off, there's going to have to be some engineering to that. And great group of guys. I'm not saying anything about that. I'm just saying when it's all said and done, because of the liability, there's going to have to be an engineer signing to that thing. And it's going to cost money. It's going to cost money. It's the bottom line. So you're not going to get away from that. You have the ad hoc committee.
You talked about a system that involved lines. I mean, not a multi-million-dollar system that would.
It's still going to need to be
stability.
engineered when you back down on an 80-foot yacht.
I agree. But you're starting with the proposition that we're going to build a float out from the middle of the mole. I mean, go back and look at the plans the things that were proposed by Michael Baker.
I did. I have looked at those plans, and I have read that thing. And, the Express was one of 3 issues. If you will solve that problem. One of 3.
It didn't, no. Actually, in the first report, what they said was that it was a major contributor, but given their status in the community and in our economy, that obviously they couldn't make the Express do anything.
That's not correct, because the Express wants to do something.
I know they do.
They want to do something,
know.
but what we need to do is we got to get it engineered to do it. We can't have a group of guys that sitting there going, every one of them will sit there and say, yeah, we need to hook up this, how to hook up this headline and how to have an aft headline and back down on it and put it in neutral. Other than putting pilings in on those floats, that's what you almost have to do, but it's got to be engineered. And nobody's going to put their name to it, because if something happens, the liability, you understand that, it's the liability issue. So it can be done. It's just once they look at it and they come back to you, and then you say, okay, we're going to have to get it engineered and get it put on. So that's going to cost money. I mean, I've had this conversation last week with Michael about, for the budget process, putting in the money to be able to budget just this specific issue. Not adding groins, no matter if they stop tomorrow, that sand is not going back on that beach. Right. There is no way that sand's going back on that beach.
That is just one aspect.
Exactly,
of
that's the point.
A huge issue.
In a huge issue.
To me, it's the aspect of they stop burning all that gas. It behooves them to do that. The cost of a ticket there should be some leeway so that we could raise some funds for other harbor improvements?
It's all part of the big picture, but it just, I mean, again, that's one snapshot that you've taken, and yeah, we can solve that thing, and that could relatively be quickly solved. All it is, you need an engineering to be able to figure out what the forces are when you pull back on that line, get a line that doesn't stretch. You know, it can be done. But again, at the end of the day, you're going to need the engineer to sign off on it. You can't do it without.
I mean, in that group, because there are, but that group really can't do that.
No, they can suggest that. They
Right,
can suggest
right.
that.
Yeah, I mean, like you
and
say,
I
the
get it.
liability, I don't think Charlie Kemp would want to sign his name to that.
No.
I wouldn't think, I mean, he
That's
just walked out of the room.
The same
but-
way you talk about the fuel dock. Everybody says the fuel dock was put together wrong. Well, not one of those people want to sign their name to it. There was an engineering firm that signed their name to it and said, yes, this will work. Now, if it bellies up, they were right and they were wrong, but at the time it was a money issue. It was $3 million or $6 million compared to $2 million. It just, I work for you. You tell me what you want. Either way, you tell me what you want. But at the end of the day, well, no matter what we do, no matter what Bob does on capital improvements, it has to get engineered, and it's costing money. And
I think it's a matter of where do you start? Do you turn it over to a consultant and say, come up with anything you'd like?
Not at all. Not at all.
Give us
I take
a $20 million project, because that might be an interesting thing. Or do you look at it and say, this is a boat tied to a dock. What do we do for the least amount of money so that we don't have to reverse thrust to keep it where it is?
And we had that conversation, and this thing can be done quickly. It's gonna cost you. It's not going to be $25. It's going to cost you a pretty penny to engineer it and get it in place, but it's not going to be $4 million either.
Right.
So it can be done. It's just, it takes time for this stuff to happen. And I know nothing happens quick enough for everybody. And it's just like, I mean, I've been doing this for 3 years now. It's not something that I created. It's just this is what we got. So I do what you. I work for you. You tell me what you want.
I mean, I'm wondering why we can't dredge now, because they said it'd still take years to get the dredging for it to remove the sand that's already there while we're finding these other solutions, so. Okay, council, what's your pleasure? Or anybody else want to comment? I'm sorry.
I think they're having a meeting in the restroom.
Oh, okay. You gonna meet him in the restroom too, or no, Jenny?
I feel like the committee would be of value to start one project at a time. And it seems like it's maintenance at this point, and of course that involves the sediment, and it involves the crane, and I mean, I have been up here, Annie, with several times with issues like not just seagulls. And I mean, I'm talking about there's a desal plant that's not functional.
Yes,
there are floats that are missing off dinghy docks that used to be there, and I would question that, and just wondering, where do we start?
Right.
I look at warrants every month here for $1 million a month for work that doesn't seem to be going anywhere, or doesn't happen. So any nudge in that direction would be a good one, I would think, because we're like falling apart with rust and, stucco falling off and pier pilings dangling and, things like that just are getting noticeable. So thank you for bringing that up and, trying to get to the, some,
It's still about the budget, though. There's got to be money out there to do this.
A lot of this stuff,
A lot of the stuff that's being done.
Yeah. Allison?
Yeah. I've been bugging you for years about having a harbor oversight committee, and I really hope you do continue with this. I know it's tough, but there needs to be an advisory committee, and there are numerous issues, maintenance issues, operational issues, safety issues, issues relating to customer satisfaction. I think this needs to be a representative committee of people who use the harbor, not just engineers. I mean, the first obvious thing, there were no women on that committee. Second, there were no boaters on that committee who currently have boats in the harbor. We don't just need engineers, we don't just need people who have businesses in the harbor. We need boaters, including boaters who don't live here, boaters who live on their boats, boaters who are active in the community, as well as the people who have businesses in the harbor. But I don't think it has to be anything super formal. It can be an advisory group, but I think there needs to be a committee formed of some sort. And there needs to be some direction from the city council. You can't just say, put a committee together and call the city council when we have something to say. It has to be more formal than that, but I think you need to make it more representative and look at a variety of issues, not just the maintenance and engineering issues. They're important, of course, but they're one of many problems. It doesn't matter if it falls apart if we have no boaters.
Right.
If we're losing 3% of the boaters a year, we've got a problem. So I think there's a variety of issues that need to be addressed. I encourage you to please continue with this, figure out the format. I don't think that's as important as the fact that we have some sort of representative community. Thank you.
Totally agree. I think that's great. So the kind of things, when you were talking about the kinds of people you were talking about, that
included boaters in the harbor
Yeah.
and, members of other yacht clubs and whatnot. But again, the maintenance is important. I get that. I understand JJ's points, but I also wanted to have people look at congestion, look at mobility, look at safety, look at services, bettering the services in the harbor. What can we do with little to no funding? Just how can we do better? How can we retain boaters? So for me, it's more than the maintenance. It's JJ, you tell me, you got time to do a congestion study this summer? You're probably going to tell me no. You guys are busy. You guys got time to do safe mobility in the harbor?
Can't do a congestion study because it's too congested.
It's probably a rhetorical question, but I do have plans on doing a congestion study this summer. I have put money in the budget to it to get it done. I've talked to our IT guy. We're putting cameras on top of the roof to be able to take time-lapse photography through the summer and over by the mole. So it's in the works. I mean, is it going to happen tomorrow? No, but it without a good harbor study, when we go to get grants, they want to know. They want to know that information. So why it hasn't happened in the past, I don't know. But last year we tried to do it, and things got away from us. Summer times are busy times, and it's very difficult to, that's a wintertime project to set up for the summer. So no matter what, when we do the study, they need somebody on there that's going to, that professionally does the study. So we are trying.
But the question would be like on that harbor study as you find out what, kind of like an audit committee, or, like an auditor would do, it's what they will actually perform to see if there's other ways to do it besides the way that guy says, perhaps.
Well, because I mean, that's the thing that we've always heard in the past on anywhere we go within, especially the city of Avalon. It's we've been doing it that way forever.
Right.
Well, guess what? That forever's done.
But if we need that study, but I guess we have to decide, why do we need that study to tell us?
Exactly, and that's a budget. That's a budget question that we're going to be approaching down the road.
What do we really want out of that study? Okay. So, I think we're going in the right direction here. I think the task force, are they still in the back room? Task force, I don't think they're in the bathroom. I think they're in the back room. Anyway, and then these two want to sit on it.
These two would just sit as an advisory committee.
Exactly.
Advisory committee.
Exactly. Like Allison says, we don't care what we call it. Okay?
So if we can bring back an action item for an advisory committee.
Wait a minute, no.
We can just.
No, there's a little task force that's going to meet, and then it turns out.
The task force, they are separate. They are separate.
And these are just attendees.
Let me see here now. I'm going to see how it's agendized.
Discuss the option.
Discuss if the need exists to reinstate the Harbor Committee advisory body. Provide direction to staff.
So we've discussed the need does not exist to reinstate the Harbor Committee advisory body the way it was before.
Correct.
So that
Boom.
is set.
Boom.
The direction we want to provide to staff is that Councilmember Albers and myself will sit on an advisory
task force,
ad hoc advisory
committee that will take input from the citizens.
Right.
That would form their own independently created harbor, whatever they want to call it.
Right. Okay, where did the boys go?
We can do that. We can do that. I'm more comfortable coming back with a formal action item at the next meeting because there's nothing here about the ad hoc, but we can do that at this meeting.
Okay.
And then just bring back a consent item that says that the two will be appointed as on the advisory, again, the advisory committee for harbor issues.
Really has to come back.
We'll just put it as a consent item.
Yeah,
and let's move forward.
I feel more comfortable
We've got-
because we're actually designating people in the way that it was agendized did not deal with that.
Which is actually what we did with the Edison
and the hospital, yeah.
And then there's only a substitute if either of you can't make it. We can't do that, right? We can't do that.
No.
Okay.
No.
Only two.
No, only two.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Item number 11.
So I'm going to start by seeing if we can bring it back to our happy place here. 26 miles across.
So you got a smile on our faces.
All right. Thank you for hearing this item. I think this is probably now the fifth time we've heard it since the first year, and we're getting close to the culmination of the ordinance and a resolution for it. Tonight, looking to have some discussion in regards to a resolution for a lottery system and how we go about selecting sidewalk vendors and the permits for that. We have approved in the ordinance the first reading, which was the last meeting, the meeting in April 16th, for 6 vendors to be permitted throughout the city with the restrictions that are as part of the ordinance. And we're just looking for a little clarification, some discussion in regards to some points, and then the intent will to bring back the ordinance for the final reading at the next meeting, as well as the resolution on the selection process. So if you can bear with me, I just want to make sure we are all clear that the first route of action will be all 25 applicants will be put in a lottery system, and there's agreement on that, and we're not going to go first come, first serve, which was once discussed. We all clear that that's what we intend to do?
Yes.
So,
Well, I mean, it's-
lottery
it's-
system for
Yeah.
everybody.
I think that there was a suggestion, I might have made it, that we provide some sort of a bump up for those, recognizing those people that were here on first come, first serve. So for instance, I mean, just as an example, if you were number 1, then you would get, I don't know, 5 bump up. Number 2 would get 4 bump up, something like that, to reflect that people were here. Wasn't there some discussion? Or
There was some discussion. I'm just, again,
That's why we have it in front of you, to make sure we get some
we're taking
clarification
council
here.
direction, and I think what it would be if it was a quasi-lottery system plus bump-up system, it would be like, you could do a random thing where if you were first come, you get, let's say, like the basketball, you get five slots. If you were second, you get 4, and then up to a certain number, and then everyone else gets 1, and then it just kind of goes. So your odds of getting it are increased, but not guaranteed.
Right.
So we could develop that if that was council's direction. I think we're at the next meeting, we're going to have the adoption of the ordinance, and the ordinance goes into effect 30 days after that. So you know, we can come back at the next meeting with the resolution and tweak it. Then, you know, we still have time, but we want to get the council's kind of input on what you want to do with the fact that you've limited it to 6, but you've got a lot of people that want these things.
Well, right now, can we say that we want to close the taking of the names?
No.
I don't think we can.
No?
No.
Okay. Okay, number 2, before we get to that, the income levels. That's a big thing to decide on.
So we want to touch on that. So
Yeah, that's a big thing.
the recommendation here were that you would set aside a certain number of slots for those that are considered low income, and then laid out in the staff report is the chart, County of LA, Los Angeles County chart there, and what constitute low income. And
Right.
then if that was something that to be considered, how many of those 6 permits would you like to see go towards that?
Well,
And again, the only reason we put that in is the whole purpose of the state
Yes,
statute
exactly.
was designed to help low income.
Exactly,
Right.
exactly. I think that should be the main criteria, one of the main criteria is the income levels on all 6 of them. Now, I don't know what other cities are doing in terms of how they're setting that the moderate income, I mean, a moderate income
Most-
person with 5 in their family can make $89,000.
Most cities don't limit the number. Only Carmel has.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so there's no need to submit that, you know.
Okay. And we're going to try to do the 3 food and the 3 something else.
That's it.
That's
If that's it, again, that's your decision.
another-
This is all council's decision.
Well, B sounds like an easy one. 3 food vendors and 3 others, to me. And then if we find out because of the strict requirements on the food vendors, we don't get them, then we reassign perhaps later on.
Right.
Is that
Yep.
an easy one?
Yeah, that
And
makes
then
sense.
on item number C, I see the idea of a maximum of 1 permit per public park, but could we make it 1 of each
Yeah.
types of permits? So you could have an item vendor and a food vendor.
Yeah, you could have an artist and a food vendor.
And I don't even know, if we only have 6, why do we even need to put a limit on public parks? Because oftentimes you go someplace and they have a couple different carts in an area, and then you have a choice. I don't know if we even need to, do we even need to say, if there's only 6 permits, I mean,
Okay,
why couldn't you have 2 people?
Well, council original direction was to limit it to 1 per park, and that's what the ordinance reads. So if we would change that, we'd have to bring back the ordinance for revision.
Oh, okay.
But that was one of the council goals initially, was to limit it to 1 per park.
I mean, if I'm selling prepackaged cupcakes on a little table, and you're selling, what are you gonna sell, marbles or something?
Okay.
You know, it doesn't take a lot of space, and you could almost have 2 on a, or maybe if they don't exceed that square footage thing between the 2 of them combined. I don't know. Okay, we don't want to.
So there's language in there that they need to be 50 feet apart. So some of
All right.
the parks certainly would accommodate that. But as Scott had said, we would have to come back
Yeah.
with another reading
And
of the
remember,
ordinance.
I think our intent was always to try this out for a year.
Yes, exactly.
And then
exactly.
kind of adjust it after
Yep.
we get through the
Yeah,
summer.
exactly. Okay.
Regroup after a year, right?
Okay.
Or after the summer.
Okay.
That's when you're gonna be.
So, back to the initial question.
Which initial question?
How do we go about the lottery? We're going to put everybody in the lottery system. We're going to,
You put the ones that want food in one lottery, and you put the ones that want something else in
Certainly-
another.
we'll certainly do that. Okay.
And then what?
And I heard low income first, so that regardless of, well, let's, please provide direction. We have first come, first serve, which gives priority, with some advantage in the system, or low income people get all 6 slots if they qualify.
Can we have a little feedback from the audience on this one?
I was going to say, I have a whole bunch of questions, but it's based on conversations that I've had with
Right.
members in this room that
Right.
I don't want to speak for anybody, so I'd love
Right.
to have them speak for
Right.
themselves.
Hi, Bert.
Micah Phillips, 318 Metropole. If implemented correctly, I think this would be a great thing for the island. We need more variety, and also, as stated, the intent of the legislator to promote entrepreneurship and support immigrant and low-income communities. Excuse me. My concern that the permits will be used as satellites for existing businesses and not fulfill either of these. So to have greater variety and to be sure it goes to these low-income communities, I suggest we not allow permits to people who have an existing storefront. Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Other comments? So some of you that are sitting in the audience that have storefronts, I'd like to hear from either Stevie, if you wouldn't mind, or Aaron, or Misa.
Hi, Erin Eubank, 18 Canyon Terrace. Well, if I didn't have to pay rent or pay employees, then, I could offer a lower rate by having a free space on Front Street. So I'm just not quite sure how this equates.
Right.
So it's not that I'm against anyone that wants to do something new, but I don't know that it's taken into consideration the fact that, there's a lot of us that do pay rent. It's not that negotiable in a tourist town. And we do employ people so that they can live here.
No.
So I actually wanted to ask something about the ordinance that doesn't allow ticket sales on Front Street, and I'm wondering how that is possible when the city benefits from the 4% tax. How can you have a vendor that can sell wares, but we can't do ticket sales?
We're not
Is that
allowing
true?
anyone to sell on Front Street as defined as Pedley Beach Road, Crescent Avenue, Casino Way. Nothing.
Okay.
This completely bans
Okay,
that.
so let me reword. If there's vendors allowed to sell wherever in town, why can we not sell tickets to tours and activities around town? Whether that's events, tours that run every day, activities. I just would like the council to consider to include that, since the city benefits, and it benefits the visitors that come and the community as a whole. So I was just curious why that's being excluded.
Because if I'm a low-income person, I don't have anything. So what am I selling tickets to?
Well, are all of them going to be for low income, period, the
We're
end?
going to have, if we follow what the
So it's two
legislation
separate
is.
issues, right?
Yes.
Right, okay. So my original thing, the reason why I was here was to ask about the ticket sales.
No.
Because
For-
but the low income thing is another issue.
Right. So when you sell tickets to your food tours,
Mm-hmm.
that's all done online, right?
Correct. So I could have a roving person that doesn't have a cart, doesn't take up space, and is allowed to go in the certain areas that are allowed with a phone, a tablet, selling digital tickets.
My understanding from history is that the city decided that that was an intrusion
Mhm.
on tourism and that we don't allow solicitation.
Right.
That is correct.
But we don't allow solicitation for these sorts of carts until now.
Well, it's not a
No,
solicitation. You're not
actually-
wheeling the cart up to somebody and saying, are you going to buy this? I mean, you have a cart and somebody generally figures out.
So
you
we're
have
not having roving vendors then
They
in
can
this.
rove, they can drive on the street. They can't, like if I had an ice cream cart,
But you see what I mean?
prepackaged ice cream cart, then you could pull me over and say, I
But they
want to buy an
can't-
ice cream.
They can't say, ice cream for sale here, In other words, the.
Same with ticket sales.
Right.
I could stand in the
And they still have to
designated
comply
area.
with- So in other words, we have a long-established ordinance that says we don't want people vending person to person in places where people are roaming. I mean, where people are moving from place to place, like the mall, Front Street, those kinds of things.
Right.
So these street vendors still have to comply with that. They
So do the roving vendors, right?
Right.
Isn't there a couple of,
Right.
right?
It's
So
just
no
that
matter
moving
whether
from
you're
place to-
selling.
So you move your little popsicle cart from one place to
Right.
another, you still can't then get to your new place and say, popsicles for sale, popsicles for
Right.
sale.
I'm not saying that a person selling tours and activities is going to be waving flyers and flagging anyone down any different than somebody who's selling a bag of chips. That's what I'm saying, is where this whole entire thing is encroaching into somewhere this city has not gone, period, before.
And you know what? If the state wouldn't have mandated this, we wouldn't even be here
Yeah.
discussing
Hey, listen,
this.
I'm with you. I get it. But I'm just saying, if we're going to be selling bags of chips along the designated area or T-shirts or whatever it is, why can't we sell tours and activities? That's what I'm asking.
If I can just add, the state bill actually does a lot for just food and merchandise sales, so it's not, ticket sales.
Okay. The state.
But ticket sales was one of my top items to talk about because, and I had to try to come up with an example that really didn't point to anybody or benefit anybody. But okay, so I'm a senior in high school and I want to earn money for college. I'm obviously of the lower income section because I'm not in the workforce. I'm young, I'm just starting out. And I have a beachcombing glass pickup tour that I've developed. And I get a big, tall, red beach chair that I put in a location next to a planter on Sumner. And I want to go and sell tickets for my tour that's happening at 2 o'clock today. And I want to do that 4 days a week for a minimum of 4 hours, whatever we mandated. I don't understand. That to me is saying, that is encompassing exactly what this bill was meant to be. So it doesn't have to be, for example, just because you have Aaron, because you have a place of business, doesn't necessarily mean that you should not be able to apply for ticket sales. I'm struggling with not allowing people, in all fairness, to be able to do ticket sales for tours that they do.
Okay, but did you hear what Dan just said?
I did, but
So what the state legislation says is that you cannot ban food and merchandise sales, okay? You have to allow that somewhere in the city. The city has independently, years ago, decided that ticket sales, they're not going to allow ticket sales. You could open it up if you wanted to ticket sales. The state just says you don't have to.
Right. We'd have to independently go back and
Right.
revise
The
some other
ordinance,
aspects of our municipal code.
Yes.
Well, the odds of, if we go the low-income route, the odds of those people wanting to sell tickets, other than the kid who just invented the glass, whatever he's doing.
That was a good one, by the way.
Whatever he's doing.
Glass pickup tour.
There's big money in that. So this wouldn't make it even possible for some of the people anyway, if we do the low-income thing. Which I kind of, first of all, and on the food business, these people have to have a legal kitchen in which to do their food. The odds of that, I can't imagine. All they can sell is prepackaged food. Sounds like. So if we go the low-income way, I think we've. Well, go ahead.
No, it's only okay. The question is, do you want to allocate any of the 6 slots for low-income people if they qualify?
Yeah, I'm saying let's give them all.
They may not. So you would give priority to if they qualify.
Sure.
Right.
That would be me.
So what are the qualifications?
Oh, they're
it's
on the
in
back
the
here.
staff
The LA
report.
County income guidelines.
Do you have a copy?
You can have mine.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. And your minor child is picking up the glass. If he's living at home, he's got to use the whole family income though, unless he's emancipated, if he's a minor looking to raise money for college.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, this really is just as, there's really no way to do this without, I mean, this is ridiculous, the amount of hours that we have spent trying to sort this out. And the bill is not ridiculous. The intent of it is actually really cool. But I mean, that just like, you completely popped my balloon. I am thinking that there is a way that we can make this work, but there's not. So now you've got to use a tax return from the whole family. I mean,
yeah.
Again, Avalon and Carmel are unique because you've decided to limit it. Other cities, they limit locations, but they don't limit the number, and it's a free market. So when you decided to limit it, that then creates the problem. How do you, and because you have so many people who want it, it necessarily creates the issue of, you have limited resources.
Right.
So for purpose of the resolution, I'm just going to make a recommendation. You guys can say yay or nay. All 25 and/or anybody that puts in a permit prior to the choosing of numbers will be put in equally. We will limit it to 2 that will go to low income.
No, we're saying all.
You want all 6?
Yep. I do.
I would say 4 of 6. I don't.
It would be
say
3 and
all.
3.
Or
2 and 3.
4 out of 6, so
Okay.
2 for each one.
I can live with that.
Okay. So 4 low income, and then 1 food and 1 merchandise from there.
Okay.
And then on the priority, do we still want to go with kind of I'm going to say the NBA system where if you got it in early, you get some advantage, or do we want to just put everyone in the same boat?
Everybody had to be in the same boat.
Did all those 25 come in before the city council made it clear that, although we had talked about doing first come, first serve, that we realized that that was not the direction we wanted to go in?
They've trickled in. I mean, the Jordan came in right after the meeting, and they've trickled in ever since then. I think it's probably safe to say, and you have probably a couple of people in the audience that might say, I'm backing out of this just because there are 6 locations, they're not on Front Street now, I'm not as interested. So I think that
Right.
number does come down considerably.
Yeah. So where does that take us then? Yeah.
So everybody in with the equal draw? I mean, once we do
How
the
about you? Okay, Matt, what? Equal draw for those that are left?
That's what I think.
I have a few comments I'd like to make.
Okay.
Thank you, council. Hello, council members, Madam Mayor, city attorney, manager. Thanks for allowing me to speak. I always greatly appreciate the time and thought that you've given this matter.
And the 3 minutes we're giving you.
Absolutely. As everyone else was held to, for sure. And I know that you'll give this matter a just and fair think. What I'd like to tell you about is my strong objection to the lottery system and the initial vending sidewalk permits, and then for renewing the sidewalk vending permits. I'd start out by saying that when faced with a difficult decision, we should remember the lessons of Occam's razor. Simpler solutions are more likely to be correct than complex ones. With this principle in mind, a lottery system is inevitably more complex than a waiting list. I employ the City Council to choose option D for the initial permit issuance, not only because that's what initially was told to us, but because it's the simplest and the easiest. I would ask that once the permits are given out, the Council choose option A when it comes to the lottery. This will ensure that these large investments by these low-income applicants are protected, and again, because it's the simplest and easiest solution. A waiting list makes this entire process much simpler, much easier, and much less of a burden on the city. The lottery system would have to be tracked annually, leaves these investments to chance. Could you imagine if there was a lottery for liquor permits, for business licenses, for vehicle permits? Does any of that make sense? Could you imagine the chaos if the city made the full-size vehicle permit a lottery program? And that's just a vehicle, not a financial way of life. Yet the city is considering a lottery which would leave this investment to pure chance. Could you imagine if there was a lottery for liquor permits, for business licenses, for vehicle permits? Does any of that make sense? Could you imagine the chaos if the city made the full-size vehicle permit a lottery program? And that's just a vehicle, not a financial way of life. Yet the city is considering a lottery which would leave this investment to pure chance. The city manager mentioned Carmel by the Sea, which we're basing our ordinance off of. Do they do a lottery system? No. They instituted a first come, first served basis because it's simple, easy, and proven. We work on this precedent for many other things, and does the city really want to become an ongoing referee to keep track of who applied for the last lottery, who lost the last lottery, and if the current permit holder could continue operating business? It punishes entrepreneurs who do everything right. Also, by requiring sidewalk vendors to undergo a lottery system, you're subjecting them to rules that other local businesses don't have to comply with. What happens when a lawful permit holder inevitably loses their permit? Will the city really take away a successful small business from a low-income entrepreneur in the name of equality? Beyond my argument that the first-come, first-served basis is easier than the lottery system, there's another principle at stake, and that is the principle of promissory estoppel. For members of the community not familiar with this term, promissory estoppel is the legal principle that a promise is enforceable by law even if made without formal consideration, when a promisor has made a promise to a promisee who then relies on that promise to their subsequent determent. I've invested significant time and money into obtaining a sidewalk vending permit. The promise that was made to me on February 18th by the Recreation Director and then on February 19th by the City Council and written into the original ordinance was that the permits would be issued on a first-come, first-served basis. Based on this promise, I've invested significant time and money into the endeavor, and if the council is going to change their position on this, I believe, in my opinion, it violates the principle of promissory estoppel. I usually work Tuesday nights. I've given up every Tuesday night for city council meetings to come here to let my opinion be known. I'm also the only applicant that's actually met with Sharon Davies, our local health inspector, and I'm the only applicant as of April 23rd to submit plans to Denise Navarro. She's the chief of the plan check for Los Angeles County. I have written financial receipts and time losses associated with complying with the promise given to me by the council of the city. And in closing, I urge the council to vote for the easiest, the simplest, and the originally promised solution to this difficult decision. So when it comes down to me, I'm just here to give you my opinion. It's up for you guys to make those difficult decisions. I would love to see more low-income entrepreneurs. However, I fear that many low-income entrepreneurs are not ready for the financial commitments that it'll take to seriously invest into a food business. The ware business is a little bit different. It's not as heavily regulated.
Right.
So that would be my concern. I do like the idea of some low income being allocated. Being early in the list and being a low income entrepreneur myself, I have nothing to gain from that, or I have everything to gain from that.
Right.
But at the same time, I think that business owners in this town shouldn't be penalized just because they've been successful. I think that we should offer a fair chance to everybody, and I believe in my heart that the waiting list does that in a clear, concise, and easy manner, which doesn't burden the city at all in the future.
Thank you for your comment.
Absolutely. Do any council members have any questions?
I have a question to Dan.
Okay.
Thank you, Matt. So when you talk about what is easier and what is not easier, so it's more time consuming to do the waiting list because, or the people on the list, because you go, okay, Matt, you're a food guy and Bert's a ware guy, so they come in and then you go, okay, now are you going to be the low income guy? You're going to be the not the low income guy? And you're going to have to do that down the line until you get your 6, correct? Something like that? I mean, I guess it's going to fall on you.
I think regardless of
Yeah,
whether
regardless,
we do
I'm gonna have to go through those steps.
I think regardless of whether we do a lottery system or a first come, first serve, there's going to be a waiting list. Because if you were 7th, you're going to be the next up.
Yeah.
If it's a lottery and you're drawn 7th, you're going to be next up. So a waiting list is going to happen anyway, regardless.
Right, okay. So the promissorio estoppel, whatever.
I will just.
That's Greek, not, or Latin,
I will
not
just say we
Spanish.
had a similar case and we went up to the appellate court and won on that. I'm not going to get into details.
I don't think we need to go that far, but it
Nobody
does,
brought it up.
it does bring back the comments that I made the last discussion that we had on this, that my personal, in my heart, I feel that we made a decision to do a permit on a list. And we changed that long after. And so it does not settle well for me to change it to the lottery system. That particular item I'm uncomfortable with, and I would have asked to separate the motion, whatever the motion is made tonight. I do want to have a lottery at whatever point. I want to have equal opportunity for 6 vendors, but because we started down this rabbit hole going one direction, I feel that we should stick with it for now, the way that we started. That's just a personal opinion.
I don't have a problem with that.
Now that Dan's put all this time and effort into.
No, and,
but
that's fine, and that's why we
you know,
came out,
whatever
staff has come out and asked if.
Right, but each person on the waiting list, as their name comes up, still subject to complying with.
Right,
all-
absolutely.
Absolutely.
So the first two
And in
that-
fact, what we did is in the ordinance is because if you want to have the kind of food where you're preparing the food, and because of the information, it takes a long time,
Yeah.
we give you a year to get that
Right.
permit. If you don't, then you fall off.
Right.
I imagine that what will happen is if we go to a first come, first serve, we would take the applications and we go back to the people, assuming that we have a track of them.
Yeah.
Okay, we do. Good. Then we could go back to them and find out how many are actually truly interested, and then they go through the application process. We can create a waiting list. That would be easy enough. I just need to know for the resolution, how many slots do we want to allocate for low income? Is it 2 for each category?
They're saying 2 and
2 for
2 and
each
2,
category.
and I'm saying I'd like all 3, but I'm just one vote.
3 and 3?
I feel more
I'd like 'em
comfortable
all.
with 2 in each category, just because one of the provisions in the law says that you will not discriminate against.
But we're going
existing
for
businesses.
immigrants and low income.
And
So-
And part of the reason, and because the other part of the statute is that immigrants and low-income people who were doing this were getting arrested. And so
Right.
what the statute did was it totally decriminalized the vending.
Okay, so that's why I'm saying, if it says immigrants and low income, I don't know why we don't stick 100% with the intent of the law and just do all of them, but,
That's a policy decision.
yeah, well, then I think I'm out overruled. So, right, what do you think, Councilman Hernandez?
I think it'd be 3 and 3, and I'm still a big lottery guy. I think
Okay,
it's
if it's-
fair.
Yeah.
There was people that really didn't understand everything when it first came out. It came up to me after everything had been, everybody had went up there first, put their names in, and they heard about it the next time, and then, hey, well, we didn't know, and I didn't understand.
So I
kind of like the lottery ticket.
I have 3 for first come, 1 for lottery. Ole would lose out regardless because it's 3. I have a 2-2 vote on the 3 versus 2. So we could bring a resolution back, and it's going to have a blank in it at the next meeting, and you fill
Then
it
it'll
out.
be up to Ole.
It'll be up to Ole. It's 2-2.
It's got to come back anyway,
It's
right?
got to come. Yeah. All we're doing is
Okay.
we are
Okay.
getting some guidance
And
on
what Richard is
the
saying is why
formation.
I felt that some sort of blended waiting list plus lottery acknowledged those people who did get their act together and came in, as well as recognizing that there are other people who might not have had that.
Okay, so that sits better with me, but I don't remember.
I've had people come up to me, tell me about not being able to get there,
Right.
understanding.
Oh,
it.
that,
Yeah,
okay,
about
not
signing up
understanding
for
it,
grant.
okay. So what is the recommendation on modified then?
Well, the blended approach would be
the
to
blended
give
approach.
those who came in early some sort of a bump up. You pull your lottery, and then you provide like a point or two, depending on where you were on the waiting list, to move that person's position up.
Okay, and so I remember that comment coming up early in the discussion, and I may have misunderstood it, but I thought the council said, no, they did not want to give priority
I don't remember.
to somebody who was on the list prior. So, I mean, that to me seems that would be more fair than saying one thing and then changing our minds. So I guess a lot of people, not a lot, but a handful of people who came in the very next day after the first meeting and put their name on the list did so without having any criteria whatsoever. We
No.
didn't have anything sorted out.
Okay, but let's be clear here. you're talking about apples and oranges. The first time this came before the council, it was a resolution, very quickly under state law, to allow people to get permits for a year. That resolution still stands, and people can get them for a year, okay? That was the purpose when and that resolution had no limitations on the number of them. And then what happened is when we brought the ordinance, there was a discussion where you wanted to limit it. And then so after that meeting, we came back with the ordinance that limited it. So I think you need to draw a distinction between the resolution, which still people can get permits, versus the ordinance, which is now going to be in effect, which limits it to 6 people.
Okay.
But based on the resolution, the people could, did that have the business license and the insurance and all that in it?
Absolutely, yes.
It did,
Yes,
okay.
It had
yeah,
all that,
okay.
it had all that stuff. We added a couple more in the ordinance, like one is to indemnify the city.
Right.
Because,
okay.
you know,
Yeah,
but
exactly.
basically,
Yeah.
the resolution, other than on the locations,
Yeah.
it mirrors
Okay.
what the ordinance
Okay.
does.
So I could go and sell my sea glass necklaces right now if I apply for a permit.
And got your insurance.
If you got.
And
if
got
you
my insurance
complied-
and a
if you
business license
complied
and all
with
that.
all the
You'd have a
provisions of
permit
the-
for a year.
I'd have a
You'd
permit for a year. Oh, so there's no stopping anybody on the list right now that,
No, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's been a number of us who have applied for business licenses and encroachment permits, and we've been entered into.
All right, need to go to the mic. I'm sorry, Matt. Matthew.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's been a number of us that have applied for encroachment permits and business licenses. They haven't been issued. We applied in February, and they have not been issued. So what we were told is we have entered a holding pattern. Well, the council figures out what's going to go on, how these are going to be issued, things like that. So to speak to your question, no, you can't go get a permit right now and start.
So he
selling.
would have been the first one if we had our act together.
Well, no.
In terms of
you
getting
could
it
still-
done.
You could, again, there's been no council action to say you can't issue permits. So the
That's what I'm saying,
resolution
but we have not issued him one.
The business license has not been issued, the encroachment permit has not been issued. All other necessary functions for the permit were supplied.
I want to say that, Matt, didn't you come up maybe the last time we brought this up at a council meeting, and you were concerned about the cost it would for the person doing particularly the food vending part and the
Absolutely.
whole process. And so at that time, there was discussion about letting everything unfold so they would have very clear guidelines. So I think that's why
Okay. Yeah.
they're kind of been on hold.
Well, that's just validation for me to not do the lottery and just to do it just on that.
I mean,
on the list.
I don't understand why we wouldn't issue somebody a business license. You know, I could sell my sea glass necklaces
I'm
to
not
all
quite
the
sure.
other people in town that have a storefront. So I don't understand why we wouldn't issue a business license. I can understand the encroachment permit for the certain area, but
So let me speak to that. This was all unraveling pretty quickly or pretty slowly. People are coming in, asking for business licenses, getting more information about it. We have not decided how many vendors we're going to have. We're not decided on whether we're going to be on Front Street or off of Front Street. Most of that hadn't been worked out yet. So staff's concern was, my concern was, we start giving these guys a green flag to go out and do this, spend money on carts, spend money on insurance, spend money on encroachment permits, and have it all pulled back.
Right.
You told me I could be on Front Street, and then the next meeting where everybody's off of Front Street.
And now my recollection is getting better. Because
Like I
what
said, we beat this to death.
What I recall, though, is in the original resolution, it was a business permit and an encroachment permit, and there were conditions on the encroachment permit that basically said the city manager and the
Planning.
Dan have the ability to determine where it's appropriate and time and what conditions to put on. It was not a guarantee that you come in, you get it. No, you still had to go through a process, and we still had to determine that it was appropriate as to where you want to have it, There were a number of factors there. So the original resolution was not a guarantee that you get it. You still had to go through the encroachment permit process. Rather than go through the council, you delegated that to staff.
But why would want to spend, why would I want to spend all that money and not get anything?
Yeah, and it was advisory, and I've told people that you're welcome to be out there selling right now, but as an advisory, I would hold off. Let's see how this goes until it fleshes out a little bit more.
Right.
So people aren't spending money and coming back and saying, "Now what do I do?"
So would that year start when you got your permit? From that date? Yes. From that date, it's on the permit.
Well, no, that doesn't, well, but on the
you
food
got that
vending
permit,
people,
I'd have to-
but the food vending people have a year.
If it's for a
I'd
year,
have
if
to
you
look
get a
at,
permit.
I'd have to look at the resolution. I don't have that in front of me, but the resolution may have said from the year from the date of the resolution.
But if it takes me 3 months to get my food cart, it shouldn't start until I'm actually in business. And that's what we said, we give them a year to get their food thing together?
So in the ordinance, we've got 18 months for merchandise and 24 months is what's been recommended for food, just to give them a little more time to ramp up with their.
No, that's how long your permit lasts.
Yeah.
It's a year if you're preparing food.
Right.
It's a year to get all your permits. If you're selling packaged food that's already done, you don't need, you can do that right away because you're not making a kitchen. You're selling ice cream cones frozen food.
So if it takes me a year to get my truck, then I can only be in business for another year.
Yes.
That makes no sense. If somebody has a $30,000 or $40,000 investment in a food cart and all they get is a year, that makes no sense to me. I mean, I don't know what people are wanting to do, but that makes no sense.
I think again, when we discussed it, it was maybe 5 years and the council had decided 18 and 24.
Yeah, but I don't think that's right. Yes, Aaron.
Would a business on Front Street or anywhere in town be allowed to be open without proper permitting?
Oh, no. And we have permitting.
So is the vendor in operation before they have the proper permitting?
No.
Okay.
No. You have an heart attack back there. That's okay. Just stay with us. Go ahead, Dan. Get us off center here.
We have one more public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I want to give the opportunity to make a public comment.
Oh, Alex in the back?
Alex.
Hello guys, my name is Alex, 343 Clemente. Huge fan of you guys. This is a little nerve-wracking actually. But yeah, basically, I'm coming from the community. I think there's a big need for food, especially after 11 o'clock. This is a party town. Summertime is coming. Once 11 o'clock comes, 11:30, there's no more food available. I know this rule or this law was into place because, the immigrants would always go, damn, this is nerve-wracking.
You're doing fine.
But yeah, for example, I go to Pico Rivera, right? There's a venue there, and then there's a lot of bandas, I guess, like concerts that happen. And then once it's done, we've all been drinking, we've all been dancing, we all work up an appetite. And so you always see all these vendors that have bacon-wrapped hot dogs. It's just a basic thing, but then right behind them, there's like 10 of them, and then there's a whole bunch of cops. And the cops are the ones that go in there and arrest them because that was against the law. So now I believe that's why California implemented this law to allow them to, sell whatever they want to sell. Being here, I was born and raised here my whole life, lived here the whole time. I think the food choices around here nowadays are not the best. They're a little bit bland, especially with some of the restaurants that, kind of went away. Back in the day, we had Picnic Fry, Pizza Cafe would stay open past 12. What was the other place?
I remember. Go ahead. You're making your point very well.
With nowadays, Pizza Cafe, they do sometimes have a problem with drunk people, so I believe that's why they no longer stay open that late. I do believe that when this thing does go in place, we're going to have 2-3 people that get the food thing, and they're not going to be able to handle the traffic from all the drunk people that are going to come in, you know, trying to line up with their golf or their carts and get their order in, because I think I don't know if you've seen before, if you remember, when people would line up at Pizza Cafe, the line was pretty much all the way from their counter basically to the sidewalk.
Yes.
So I know this is against everything we're talking about, but having the 6 is a little bit too harsh, because I think having 6 people there at night would be, you know, suffice to provide the needs of all these drunk people. And I'm sorry, you know, I don't mean to represent the drunk people, but, you know, I'm young and I go out, you know, once 12 o'clock goes, Pizza Cafe is closed. These people are like, well, what can we do for food? Vaughn's is closed. Nothing is available. Now, I think earlier in other meetings, you guys said that it would create a lot of saturation. I think some of the carts add personality and it's exciting to the place. There's a documentary on Netflix that I saw the other day that says basically some of these carts, they provide items that some of the fixed establishments don't provide. Like, for example, whenever we had the festivals, you know, the Spring Fest or whatever, some people have jambalaya. People have never had jambalaya before. I knew I'm a big fan of jambalaya now because I've tried it before. So I think, I don't know, just food for thought.
Food for thought, good point.
Yeah.
Well, you know, but in terms of your being able to get some at 12 o'clock at night, we have what's our curfew on these cars? 10?
Yeah.
Okay, so you got to
Oh, so then that wouldn't
get
feel the
drunk by
need.
10 and eat and go home.
But
Or
I don't
9.
know. Just saying. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Alec. Okay.
Sorry, Dan.
So where are we?
Where are we?
So I lied to Denise. I told her I thought this was going to be an easy one and we'd get some consensus here.
You know, it's really hard because I know that everyone else is out walking around and talking to people. I mean, I see at least 1 or 2 people a day in the arcade that stop me for one reason or another. And I just, no matter what decision we make, 50% is going to be upset, and 50% is going to be happy. And it seems like it's a very easy topic, but this one is extraordinarily difficult for me. I don't feel good about either decision that I'm going to make.
Well, because they're personalities we're dealing with. These aren't policies, these are personality.
It's not even that.
This thing was foisted on us.
Yeah,
We're just
well, in that,
but it just doesn't.
But it's tough when
you know, making a decision whether we do all 6 low income or whether we do 4 of 6. I mean, you know, I see both sides of it, and I'm just really struggling. And those of you that have talked to me, and those of you that had made comments publicly that I've read, you know, 50% either way, they're 50% on either side. I mean, there is I just don't know what the right decision is to make.
Okay. So it will be back in 2 weeks, and we're going to decide if it's lottery or whatever, because Oli will be here. And then we're going to decide on the 2 or 3 again, because Oli will be here to take us out of a stalemate, if there's a stalemate, because right now there's a stalemate. Or,
I guess there is, yes.
Okay, and then what else is unanswered there, Dan?
So, first come, first serve.
Or lottery that we're going to
lottery.
decide when, yeah.
We're going to revisit that again.
Yeah.
And then.
Low income.
Yeah, that's a 2 or 3 for.
All right.
Okay.
And then the next question would be, so 25, we take 6 of them, we've got 19. Do those 6 that were given the permit initially, are they put back in the lottery system right away? They sit out a term, and you pull from
that's the issue. So
the
this
existing list?
This is a Huntington Park issue. So the Huntington Park issue, and this deals with their fireworks, is as follows. Let's say that we have 25 people that want these carts, right? And then we've got the 2-year limitation. After the 2 years, then what Huntington Park does is says, okay, if you've already had it, now it's the turn for someone else to try it. And so you are not, you do not, you have to go to the back of the waiting list. And so, or if you do a lottery again, you do not get it because you've already had the opportunity. So you could do that, Or you could just say, if you have it, when it's time for renewal, you're given priority if you've complied with all rules and stuff. Again, we need your direction on what to do with the second time you do this.
Or they're put in the mix with the rest of them and
Right.
possibly pulled again. So
I
there'd be
kind of
three
like the
options there.
renewal.
The what? The renewal?
The renewal. I'm thinking about the big investment people. If I'm selling T-shirts, I'm not so concerned. But I mean, but if that's their livelihood and they're selling good T-shirts and everybody's happy, and then can I sell my business, my T-shirt business to somebody else I've done so well and give them the? No, I guess I can't do that.
No, this is a personal license.
This is like a city sticker.
It's a personal
You
license.
can't do that.
And actually, what I will tell you, because I was the city attorney of Huntington Park when this happened, and we had one lottery where the big church that depended solely on fireworks sales didn't get it, and the council increased the number of permits from 9 to 15 to make certain that they got it.
Okay.
So again, you have that option.
Okay,
But-
Rocio's in the back and she would like to say something.
Hello, everybody. Rocio de la Cruz, 321. I was actually going to be one of the persons who was going to sell. I sell Tostilocos all the time for Fall and Spring Fest, and I make a lot of money. And I do agree with the whole food vending. I just didn't like the fact, since it wasn't decided, like Matt, first come, first serve. I think that's the best way to go, because he did everything. And when you're doing the lottery, this is one of the reasons why I didn't want to move forward. It's like, that doesn't give a fair chance to the people who did everything first. With the food, it's like, I'm actually majoring in health inspecting, so I'm a certified instructor. How do you determine how people are doing everything correctly? It's like you're giving them a whole year to get all the licensings. I don't agree with that. You should get everything. The only person I've heard who's done the whole health inspecting is Matt.
Mm-hmm.
And we're giving these people a chance to work this way without having any licensings?
No, they're not actually allowed to work until all of we're giving them a year to get everything together, but they
Okay.
can't actually operate
Because
until they have everything.
In order to get a cart, as the evidence is displayed for the council, in order to get a cart where you're actually preparing the food and it's a legal cart, and it's authorized by the county health, which is what we require, that process takes many, many months. And the cart itself that the county likes is an expensive cart. So the thought of the council was, if you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna buy this $30,000 cart, and then you're gonna go 6 months and you're gonna get your permit, and then you go to Avalon and you say, okay, I'm ready to go, and you're at the bottom of the line or at the back of the lottery system, then you've wasted your funds. So the thought was, you get your entitlement, and then you have what should be the year long to actually go ahead and get that, up to a year long. And maybe it may be quicker, because we didn't want to have people spend money.
So in other words, you don't lose your place.
You don't
in the
lose your
list.
place, right.
But I mean,
Because it's taking some time to get your approvals.
I'm very happy that this is happening in Catalina because, for example, Juan Olvera, their family is known for making the most delicious, authentic Mexican food here. So it's wonderful that you're giving this opportunity to everybody.
Yeah,
That's what I have to say.
Well, so what do you think, I want your opinion on the status of the low income versus the not low income ones?
I don't want to talk about low income.
What?
I don't want to talk about low income. I have my personal feelings about that.
Well, you're a resident in Avalon. Oh, if you don't want to say, that's fine.
I just think that there's a lot of people who are not low income. There's people who are not married, file separate to stay low income.
Oh.
And I'm very against that.
Well,
and that's all I have to say.
Okay. Well, I wonder if they're willing to work as well.
But thank you for giving everybody an opportunity, and maybe next year I'll go ahead and apply.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So she say going off the list. That's what Rosia was saying. That's what I'm saying as well. But okay, but that'll come back. So what needs? We know what it is. Any other issues or items on that agenda item that somebody wants to comment to? It would be interesting if people truly aren't interested to just come and pull their name off. That would be nice. You know, if the island company really isn't going to try to get, I mean, I think they're on the list, and I think Buddy Wilson's on the list.
Yeah, my intent would be to start, now that we're starting to define it, I don't want to do it too early, is I'd call through that whole list and say, this is what the parameters are you still in or not? And we get a better idea of what that list actually looks like.
That would be good information for the council.
Right. Okay, Dan.
Could we do that before we come back to the next meeting? I mean, just to give us a better idea of what, if the number's 25 now, what would that number look like? And
certainly. I kind of want to keep them a holding pattern in case this thing goes totally different, but I can get a feel for what people are thinking.
Yeah, get a feel.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then I just want to make a comment to the community that while, I mean, I personally read comments and I find it extremely educating to read people's thoughts and comments online, but that is not, that is only like side interest, that if you want your opinion heard and you want your viewpoints, which are extremely valid, if you want those heard, you need to address the entire city council, whether that be at the meeting or send us an email. You can send any one of us an email and it can get through the city, distributed to everybody. I've had I had 3 really good conversations, and I've had many quick conversations about this topic with people, and I've asked each one of them to please send their thoughts to the city council, and not one of them has. So I just want you to, the community in general, to know that we're all having conversations. It takes a lot of time to have conversations, but you need to address the council as a whole. So please send your information and help us make a good decision for our community.
My daughter called me from Texas today and said, Mom, I got on Facebook or a discussion page or whatever. She said, I almost chimed in. And then she's asking me questions. So there's a lot of misinformation that was out, whatever media she was reading today, which is just fuels fires, which is ridiculous. Okay.
Anyway.
Okay, we're good. Now we're going to talk about pesticides.
And this actually is a good segue, because number 11 was all because the state basically told cities what to do. And number 12, the state has also told the cities what you can't do. So I'll let, you want to?
Okay, well, I, as a person who's living with cancer, I have grave concerns about particularly our city employees using chemicals that are suspected or known to be carcinogens, the primary one being Roundup, but it's being discovered that many things that we use to kill rodents, to kill pests, to kill weeds, to kill other kinds of pests have cancer-causing agents. So I asked the city attorney if he could provide some background, and it turns out that in fact the state has said that it is keeping control of the power to ban the sale of certain things, but there is a growing number of cities that are banding together. The League of Cities has adopted a resolution to seek to lobby to have that state law changed. And so staff has recommended some things consistent with what they did in Malibu to at least reflect the concern of the city and an exercise of what we can do, which includes the following, which I think my recommendation would be that we do, which would be to develop a policy to eliminate the use of these things as part of the city maintenance program in city-owned parks and facilities and by city contractors, that we would encourage local property and business owners to eliminate the use and or sale of these kinds of pesticides, herbicides, and rodenticides on their property, that we endorse the repeal of the section of the state code that preempts local regulation, and that we encourage the state of California to conduct further research into the impacts of these.
Sure.
And my understanding, and I want to applaud, Chat's has decided that they're not going to sell Roundup, which I think is
We will, it is
applaudable.
actually the amount that the hardware store has sold in the last year is incidental. It basically, very, very few sales at all, so it is not a product that we will continue
to put on the shelves personally.
Okay.
And we don't, just because you brought that up, we do not and have no history of selling anticoagulants. It's just not even in our inventory system, so that one's not an issue.
Okay, so if we agree with what you're saying, what do we do?
Staff will implement a policy so that we don't use it on city properties or that our city contractors don't use it.
Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
And we'll send some letters.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah?
I agree.
Okay, well, then I'll
Okay.
move.
Well, public comment?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Public comment?
I don't care.
Okay.
All right, then I'll
So what
move.
that wouldn't affect though if, let's say, the Conservancy, which is that.
No.
Well,
Yeah,
it certainly
it's just
sends
that-
a message
Right.
that
Right.
it's
Right.
something that, as a community, I would hope that the chambers, Catalina Cares, would endorse.
Right.
This is part of our efforts to create environmental safety in this, in the
Right.
city.
Good.
On behalf of the Island Company, we do use Roundup in a considerable amount of areas, golf course. And we're, interestingly, for the last 3 months, Michael Fricella and our sustainable team have been sourcing and researching other options other than Roundup.
Great.
So we're, particularly in Raptor Ridge and all that area where there's animals and birds, we're looking at different methodology to protect the sustainability and the obviously the landscaping enhancements we've done. We want to keep that in good stead, but we recognize that the Roundup might be not conducive to a future application. So just to let you know from the Island Company, and I think the Conservancy and Tony would say the same, we're trying to adopt this as a community effort, and we'll find some ways to do that with our vendors or purveyors. Everybody is licensed to use this. It's just not that we're using it independently. We have teams that are accredited in the use of all of these chemicals and options outside of Roundup. But Roundup is clearly in our crosshairs to find some remedy for it.
Great.
Just an
See,
FYI.
we're all on the
Okay.
same page.
You
That's
bet.
great,
Awesome.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, with that, I'll move staff recommendation.
A second.
Call for the vote.
All ayes and one absent. Councilmember
My
Olson.
thanks to the city manager and the city attorney, good work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, this is you, Pam. Item number 13.
Oh, I think we're just getting back on our schedule, but I reported on this at the last meeting. So just to reiterate, the Edison had filed their advice letter seeking to start catching up with the amount of revenue that they are entitled to make. So we are, and that a recommendation has come out from Department of Water of the PUC to approve that. The attorney that's part of our little ad hoc group did send a letter just reminding the water staff that we do have real concerns about the accumulated backlog of monies that Edison is seeking from the ratepayers, but this really is a going forward thing, so.
Okay, great, thank you.
And information about this is available on the city website.
Okay. And we have a closed session, correct?
Nope.
Okay.
Hospital agenda.
I have, oh, that's why I wondered if I needed it. Okay, here we go. And we will call to order the Avalon Municipal Hospital Board of Trustees meeting for Tuesday, May 7th. Why did he say no?
That's why I was
session.
looking at him funny. No, he was saying, no, we have to go to the hospital board.
We got closed session.
Well,
It's just one item.
I'm going to reopen the meeting so we can go to closed session.
Tell Alex.
Wait, hold on, Alex, we're back.
He's got it.
And what is the issue?
Are we back on, Mayor?
Yes.
Alex, you ready?
We're going to closed session, conference with labor negotiators, agency designated representative, city manager Denise Ratty, and the employee organization is the Avalon Harbor Employees Association.
Great, thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
And we're back from closed session.
No reportable action.
Thank you very much. Good night, Tony. Thank you, Alex. Meeting adjourned.
Yeah.